Whoever wants more information, I'm okay with that.
Capron,
Here.
Brecken,
Here.
Moore,
Here.
Scott,
Wow. Here.
Water.
Here.
Okay. Could we stand for a moment of silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with
Amanda Swim. How are you guys?
Good, how are you?
Good. We have a proclamation today that reads, whereas Gigi's Playhouse Down Syndrome Achievement Center's mission is to change the way the world views Down syndrome through national campaigns, educational programs, and by empowering individuals with Down syndrome, their families, and the community. Whereas Down syndrome continues to be the most common chromosomal disorder, each year around 6,000 babies are born with Down syndrome, which is roughly 1 in every 700 babies born. Embrace acceptance. I'd like to present this to you guys. Say a few words if you would.
Thank you. We just would like to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the City Council and the citizens of Sioux City for taking a stand for Down syndrome acceptance and also for acceptance of all people with special needs and making our community a better place for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
We'll interview Taylor Goodman for the Effective Fiscal and Public Policy Committee. Tell us a little bit about why you want to serve. And
hello, Council. Taylor Goodman, 2732 South Cedar Street. As many of you probably know, I'm the Director, Taxpayers Research Council here in town, but I would be joining this committee as a private citizen. I believe Jim Johnson is the official representative from the TRC on the board. He has no plans of leaving anytime soon. I would just be joining as a private citizen who has a little bit of background on the city budget and the process, and I think I could benefit both the committee and myself from being on it, and I'm excited to serve. So I'll answer any questions that you guys have.
Don't you think you see enough of Jim? You want to have another meeting with him? Or?
You can never see enough of Jim. I
That's
will
the
be
correct
excited if
Yeah.
I have the opportunity to sit next to him some more. So,
Most definitely. Well, thank you for applying.
to thank you.
You'll be a good addition to that.
yes, how many do we have open? Do you know? Doesn't matter.
Just one, I think.
Just one. Yep.
One vacancy.
Sounds like you got a pretty good chance.
I like those odds.
Thanks for applying.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
Taylor.
We'll move on to the regular agenda now, which is the first. We'll start with the consent agenda, which is items 3 through 13F. You can consider it passed unless a separate roll call is asked for by a council member. If you want to speak on any of these items, please come up as I read them. State your name and address for the record. If you want to come speak on something that's not on the agenda, please come up under the end of the meeting under citizen concerns. I'll move the consent agenda.
Second.
3 is a reading of the City Council minutes of October 2nd, 2017. 4 is a resolution supporting an IEDA application for workforce housing tax credit program for Lakeview LLC property at 4021 Indian Hills Drive. 5 is a motion acknowledging the Board of Adjustment actions of September 26, 2017. 6 is a resolution temporarily closing Pierce from 5th to 6th Street, October 11th, 2013 for the Living History event. 7 is a resolution adopting plans and specs for the Southgate Drive manhole replacement project. 8 is a resolution approving a grant application to the United States DOT Tiger Grant Program for the 18th Street Viaduct project. 9 are actions relating to agreements and contracts. A is a resolution awarding a service provider agreement to Dragnet Enterprises for the purchase and installation of the Garrett metal detectors. B is a resolution approving a contract with KP Construction for the Spalding Farm Park Improvement Project.
Actually, I had a question about 9A, if we could go back a second. I just actually, some simple ones. I just wanted to know how we arrived at 20 units, like what, because I know they're mobile, which I think will be good and be able to utilize at other locations. Was there a reason we landed on 20 units
Yep,
specifically?
Erica Newton with the Events and Facilities Department. We have 14 that are going in at the Tyson Event Center, and that's based on how many entrance points to the building we have and how many we think we'll need for that facility. And then 6 of them are going to the Orpheum. So they have 6 of them that they can put at their points of entry as well.
And so that's the thought for almost every show, is that it'll be those numbers at the Tyson and Orpheum.
Well, I mean, it might not
Can
be
move
all
around.
14 at one show at Tyson. It just depends on how many
Whichever
doors
they
we have open. But we wanted to make sure that we had enough to cover ourselves
Yeah.
if we have a big show and need to open all points.
No, that makes sense. And then will it be mandatory at every show, or are we looking at the rider for each group, or?
There wouldn't be anything necessarily in the rider, and it won't be something that we'll have to do for every single show, but I think it'll be at the building's discretion, and it will also be at the promoter's discretion. There are some promoters that require them for every show that they do.
Yeah.
And then obviously we'll let the organization that's hosting the event, or we'll make some decisions on our own about when we think we need to use them.
Perfect.
So you're talking hockey too and football?
Only if hockey and football want to use them. I think we'll have to have those larger discussions with the different teams before we make any final decisions, but it will definitely have a lot to do with whether Bandits and Musketeers want to use them.
And you're gonna put them by the back door where the garage doors are?
Yeah,
And
we'll
then-
have some that will have to be accessible through the back area where tour staff and those sorts of folks, when they come into the building to work, will have to go through those as well. And then we'll have some that would be for the public.
Okay, and then, sorry, did you have any more questions, Mr. Mayor?
No, I'm just curious how they're gonna control that, because you can come in where the hockey's doors are and come around, and
Yeah.
I don't know how you're gonna control that, but.
And that's kind of why we needed so many at Tyson, because there are so many different ways to get into the building based on where you're at.
And then is the thought too, I guess I've dealt with this at other venues too, if it will be wide enough for people in wheelchairs, or if you'll have a wand for that, or?
We will have wands, and they can be used in a couple of different ways, either if we need them for ADA accessible clients, or if we need to use them once people have walked through the metal detectors. If there's something that beeps or goes off, then we'll have to wand those individuals separately as well as a second point before we let them in.
Okay.
Erica, the RCA says 20 units will be used primarily at the Tyson and 6 at the Orpheum, so I thought you were buying 26, but you're only buying 20? And 14 at Tyson and 6 at Orpheum?
I'm checking with these guys. What was that? Yeah, 14 and 6.
14 and
Yeah.
6.
So that must have been the mistake in the RCA. There's 14 total
Okay, thank
for
you.
Tyson and 6 for Orpheum.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Any other questions?
No, not for this. I did have one on B though as well.
Go ahead on B.
Thank you. Matt, just for B, quick. I know that it's not a lot of money, and I should have emailed you. I'm sorry I didn't get to it or text you. Just looking through the different bid sheet, is there a reason that some of the hard materials, like the concrete and the fencing, were so differently priced? I mean, I think it ended up being like $7,000 off of where we thought it would be, or like difference. Is there a reason that, I mean, the concrete and the fencing is what put it like 5,000 higher than what our engineers estimated?
Right, Matt Salvatore, Parks and Recreation Director. I'm not aware of what the discrepancy was between the different bids. I know we didn't have to provide an engineer's estimate on this project, so
Yeah.
that might have had something to do with it.
Okay.
But other than that, I don't know the reasons. We're comfortable with the bid the way it is.
Okay. And that's fine if you're comfortable with it. I just was looking through the estimate and what they were saying they would charge, and
Yep.
it just seemed off. And I didn't know why hard material or materials that you can buy
That
would
they weren't more fixed.
difference in price or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Every contractor's a little different. It's,
Well, one thing about it is, because sometimes the engineers don't know. You got it, when 3 contractors bid it kind of close, it's probably the contractors know more than the engineers. I know that's hard for some of the engineers in the audience to accept, but that's how you know what a real bid is when you get competitive bids, and the engineers don't enough homework to.
Well, and some prices were different, even with the other competitors. I didn't know why concrete or fence would be so different if that was the five grand to make up. You know what I mean? Okay.
C is a resolution accepting the work of Knife River Midwest for the I-29 sanitary sewer relocation project with the Siouxland District Health Department for the use of a 2018 Ford Fusion. E is a resolution approving a contract to H&R Construction for the Gilcrest Learning Center Project, 220 Pierce Street.
Mayor and Council, Rick Mock, Special Assistant to the City Manager. We had a Scrivener's error on the letter of recommendation. Nathan Callagher, our Plan Architect, is here to explain the change we're requesting.
Okay. Attached is the replacement letter of recommendation that reflects the corrected project title and bid opening date in the body of the letter from Plan Architecture. Staff is requesting the attachment to be replaced with Council Action Number 9E, please.
Okay, I'll move the amendment on 9E.
Second.
Thanks, guys.
The resolution and the award will not change. It's an attachment to
Right.
the RCA, so it's just more for informational purposes.
So we don't have to do it? Okay. We'll move on then. 10 is actions authorizing the issuance of checks. A is a resolution authorizing final payment to Mark Albanesius for the Ridge Avenue sanitary sewer project. B is a resolution approving settlement of a tort claim and authorizing payment. 11 are approved total checks issued for the reporting period September 2017 in the amount of $12,222,746.19. 12 are applications for beer and liquor license. See the list, come forward if you have questions. 13, the receipt of minutes. See the list, come forward if you have any questions. Anyone to be heard on any of those items? How are we voting today? Okay.
All right. Hope it works, buddy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Passes 5-0. 14 is hearing an ordinance amending ordinance 2016-0141 regarding the vacation of a portion of Christie Road. I'll move first reading.
Second.
Mayor and Council, this is simply to correct a Scrivener's error. In the legal description, there was a degree symbol, which when it was converted into a different format, it changed it to what appeared to be a 0 or an O. The Recorder's Office is asking for us to come back and just formally amend. We would ask that all 3 readings be done tonight.
I have a conflict on this one. I need to abstain, and no, Mayor, that wasn't my error.
If you had title insurance, you wouldn't have to do this.
Oh,
It just
don't
automatically go
mention that.
through.
Did you make sure and hit the abstain button?
Absolutely. Thank you for the reminder.
Passes 4-0-1. Mr. Moore abstains. Anybody opposed to waiving the statutory rule?
Oh, no.
I'll move that.
Second.
Capron?
Aye.
Greckin?
Aye.
Moore?
Abstain.
Scott?
Aye.
Waters?
Aye.
I'll move second and third.
Second.
So no.
Passes 4-0-1. 15 is an ordinance amending the municipal code to change the hours of enforcement for parking meters. I'll move it.
Second.
I had a question about that.
David Carney, Public Works Director.
Nothing, I think, too difficult, Dave, but I just wanted to ask, and I meant to drive by or look on my way in with the, are we changing the stickers or what it says on the
We will be,
inside?
yeah. We'll be changing the stickers. It'll be a process to get into, because they have to get inside every one of
That's
the
what I
meters and do
thought.
it. But yes, we will be changing the,
And so is that going to be something at a later date? I mean, because this is just saying, look, we're just changing enforcement and then.
yeah, this will go into
and
effect.
educating people, but
This will go
really
into
the
effect
only,
as soon as it's
the only way
published.
you would know is if
Yeah.
someone told you, right? And we're not going to be able to
We'll
advertise.
be
it.
going through the process as they do maintenance on them, getting the stickers changed, so.
And do you have any idea what that timeline will look like? I just
Don't off the top of my head.
it's just tough, you know what I mean, saying that we're changing gladly take. Yeah, maybe they won't.
I don't think we really
Maybe
have
they
that many
won't.
people that pay after 5.
Maybe
so-
they won't, but I just want to make sure that we're in a timely fashion, at least having units that reflect that then.
I'll talk to Manette and find out if she's got a schedule for that.
And to make it clear to everybody out there, it's 5 o'clock, right?
Yes,
8 to 5.
8 to 5 as soon as it's published, which will be
Saturday,
Saturday.
if all 3 readings pass today.
Okay, so,
But it's free on Saturday, so yeah, there you go.
okay.
Okay.
And so as long as we can advertise that, I think advertise and push that out as much as possible, or let business owners know too.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave. There you go.
Not showing.
Vote results, but it's not showing.
It wasn't unanimous, I can promise you that.
It wasn't
No.
hitting the button and it's not showing.
Well, you better call the roll then.
That's fine. Capron?
This is on the parking, right?
Yes.
Aye.
Brecken?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Scott?
No.
Waters?
Aye.
I don't understand why that even matters, what we're doing here, but just costs more money to change all that stuff out, and we aren't enforcing anyway. And even if we are, what's another hour, but suppose you want to waive to move the statutory rule, so is anybody opposed?
Objection.
Make a motion then.
I'll move it.
Second.
Brecken?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Scott?
No.
Waters?
Aye.
Capron?
Aye.
Try voting one more time.
Sure.
Do you have a different suggestion, Mayor, or what
What
are you thinking?
We're doing all this stuff to encourage parking downtown. It's not gonna make a whole lot of difference. Everybody I talk to says you have too much parking, and people don't wanna park in ramps, and what difference does it make? Why, we're gonna have a revenue short, we're gonna have more revenue shortage here, because people do pay those meters till 6 o'clock. And then next year, at this time, when we have a revenue shortage in the parking meters, and we're gonna say, what are we gonna do? Well, what are we gonna do, guys? Because this is not budgeted. So, it's frustrating that we
But if
don't
it's
do
not
this
being
as
in-
part of a budget process, because now we're gonna have a shortfall, and we're gonna be wringing our hands here next budget session. That's what's gonna happen, so.
But the understanding was there wasn't enforcement until 6 PM.
But I
regularly
still
anyway.
plugged the meter, and so did you, because you didn't know that. Now, of course, everybody knows it. So, and then we'll spend money converting and doing that stuff besides, so
Just like the parking ramps.
I'm with you.
Well, and I would encourage Dave too to think about if we need to update that software or the system, you know what I mean? I know we talked about that, I think, in the previous session too. But if we're doing the stickers or anything like that,
The software that was purchased has nothing to do with that. That's just the ticket issuing software.
the reading part of it, okay. But I just mean too, if we need to update the meters or if you're taking it apart, I don't know if it's a sticker fix or what
Yeah,
it is. but-
it's just a sticker on the inside of the meter.
Perfect.
So really, okay, so what the mayor's trying to say, I'm pretty clear actually, is that the sticker's not gonna cost much money, but it's gonna be the revenue that we're gonna be missing out on for that.
And I couldn't tell you how many people did or didn't pay after 6 o'clock, because the meters don't, there's no timer on the meter to tell you when it's not like the parking ramps, we could give you time frames
Well,
when people were.
we'll know next year when we find out how much we lost. That's what'll happen.
Thanks, Dave.
We're just trying to be consistent.
Any
Consistency
secret?
and continuity.
I think they know when the parking meter attendants go home.
I didn't know it. Didn't you? No. Yeah.
We gotta get you downtown more than to see that.
I get downtown.
If I have something to to say, do I have to come up with the microphone?
Yep.
My name's David Keene, and I live at 3704 South Briar Path. And so the question that we're addressing here really is how to bring more people downtown? Okay. I mean, is that part of the problem? Okay, well, there could be some more. Yeah, there could be some other activities that are sponsored by the city, like having an ice skating rink downtown.
We've discussed that.
I'm sorry?
We've went through that. Having a skating rink downtown. We've already discussed it.
When was that?
Well, when we were dealing with Cone Park.
I'm sorry?
When we were talking about where to put Cone Park, part of that was a skating rink.
Oh, and so they're gonna have a skating rink there?
Where?
At the other facility?
Yes.
Out on Singing Hills or some other area? Okay, well, there could be a skating rink downtown. It doesn't have to be as big.
Where? Because we looked.
Okay, well, I'm not just talking about that either, though. I'm talking about other activities downtown, like maybe there could be a splash pad downtown somewhere for the summertime.
We discussed that too.
Oh, did you really? What'd you come up with?
Cone Park.
Just in that one park?
Cone Park, we're gonna have Cone Park. Cone Park's gonna have a splash pad. Cone Park's gonna have a skating rink.
Okay, great. Well, you know, I just read an article in the paper a couple days ago about there's going to be another McDonald's in town, possibly, or another Burger King or something, on in Floyd Boulevard across from Walmart. So, I mean, if there's room for 6 or 7 McDonald's, maybe there's room for another skating rink.
I think we're all.
I don't know what the cost is. You know, you guys might know that, but I mean, there needs to be some creative thinking, possibly. I haven't followed the city council all that much lately, but I just had a thought, so I thought I'd mention it. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's not the only, just for your, we're putting splash pads in a lot of areas. Part of the problem is we don't have a lot of land downtown. That's one of the big problems, to do that type of stuff. Is there a motion on this?
I'll move second and third.
Second.
Go ahead and try to vote electronically. We'll try it one more time.
They're not lit.
Here you go.
Still not lit.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, now I know.
Mine's not.
First coming, Alex.
Not lit.
Not lit.
No.
Okay with me doing this the old
Yeah.
fashioned way? Here we go. Moore?
Aye.
Scott? Waters?
Aye.
Capron?
Aye.
Greckin?
Aye. 16 is a hearing resolution accepting the proposal of Saltzman and Saltzman Management for the purchase of land in the combined Floyd Urban Renewal Area property at 3104 Floyd Boulevard, deferred from September 25th, 2017.
I'll move it.
Second.
Mayor and Council, Chris Myers, Economic Development Specialist. Before you today, deferred from 2 weeks ago, is a proposal for Lot 4 of Northern Valley Crossing. We have 2 proposals for the site, two competing proposals. Because this is a competitive situation, I've been asked to read some of the language from the RCA, which spells out the criteria that should be considered as part of the criteria, the quality of the proposed development, the total cost of the proposed development, types of materials to be used in the construction of the project, overall project amenities, and then also the economic feasibility of the proposed development, which includes the return to the city, the ability of the prospective developer to finance and timely complete the project, and the financial impact of the proposed development. So those are the criteria that were laid out in the advertisement, and I guess I've kind of laid everything out in the RCA, and I'm just here to answer any questions that you might have.
How do we make an equal judgment on the total cost of the proposed project?
Well, I think it's a question of whether the council would entertain an offer for property that doesn't have a specific plan right now.
Typically, does the city, Chris, not generally sell property on spec?
We generally haven't. It's kind of been a general policy. I can't speak to whether it's a written policy or an unwritten policy, but generally we haven't sold land on spec without knowing at least what type of development is going to be going on it.
And it seems to me that it would be, if we have an idea of how we want that area, Northern Valley to be developed, and to be consistent, what we would want to do is not sell property on spec and have some control. I'm in favor of the city having control of what goes in there, and I'd probably be more comfortable if they were both purchasing the same amount of property, and then you could take some of the criteria into place. But some of the criteria, financial impact on the proposed development upon the city's operating budget and capital improvement, we're not, I mean, all the city's work's been done there. So there isn't any consideration there that I'm aware of. The ability of the prospective developer to finance and timely complete the project as proposed. I'm assuming that they both have the ability to do that, but I'm not sure what information I have available to me that would prove one way or the other. And it really boils down to what we may like to see there and what the overall cost of the project is in terms of property valuation and how much money we would expect to for property taxes, you know. But it would really be nice if we could, I don't know if we can we dictate what we'd like to see there in terms of Burger King, McDonald's, or Buffalo Wings? Can we make that a consideration?
I guess I would ask Nicole if we can
Sure.
deviate from the proposals that are laid out that were presented to us.
Councilman Greckens, what you're asking is if the type of restaurant can be considered as part of the criteria?
Yes.
Sure.
Can we say we'd like Buffalo Wings versus Burger King or McDonald's?
Yes, because part of the direction, the way that the resolution is presented today is based on the project that the council wishes to go forward with. You're giving instruction to the city manager to negotiate the final terms of the project. And Salzman's project is submitted with either option as far as what may go there. The council's direction is they have a preference for the type of project, then they can surely provide direction that that's what they're asking for.
So is that their option or our option?
Well, it can be one of the criteria in negotiating the final terms of the development agreement if that's the project that the council wishes to choose.
I think I'm understanding. So if we move forward and say we agree and we go with Saltzman and that project, and then they come back and say, okay, we're moving with either the Wings and Rings or we're moving forward with Burger King, do we have the ability to say, no, we don't want to do this one, we do want to do that one, or influence at that time?
That can be part of, because they submitted both type of restaurants for the council's consideration. If one of the restaurants is a higher preference for the council, you can give that instruction to the city manager to negotiate that as part of the development agreement. I mean, they can always decline and say no, and then you're in a situation with rebidding or revisiting the other proposal. But certainly you can express a preference as to which project.
I'd like to add that the staff recommendation is that we proceed with Salzman, with the preference being it be the Buffalo Wings and Rings.
Mm-hmm. One other question I had, Chris, was just thinking about the size of the property. And so if we went with the 1 point, I think it's 1.5, right? And then there's the other parcel, that's still enough land for another.
And we believe that's enough land for another another development in there. And just the restrictions, we've gone back and forth on the covenants that each have requested. And I know in the past that has been a big issue, but both proposals have scaled back their covenants down to just restricting other hamburger related fast food restaurants. So a sit-down restaurant, although that parcel is probably too small for that, or say like a taco place or something like that that does not have its main menu item a hamburger would be allowed there. So.
Because that's one thing I worry about too, is just thinking long-term about what other options, if we go with a smaller parcel, what else could go right there? You know what I mean? I don't want us to tie our hands that it's going to be, okay, well, we'll move forward with this project, and then the next one has to be another fast food style restaurant as well. Or...
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of things. I've there's been a coffee place with a drive-through. I mean, there's a number of things that develop on smaller lots, smaller than a Burger King or a McDonald's.
But the Popeyes don't have an acre. I bet the new Popeyes, they don't have an acre.
Yeah, that's a pretty small lot, yeah.
Yeah.
If they were looking for a third.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't tying our hands too much.
Sure.
If we went with that route.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have one comment I'd like to make. Am I supposed to stand up and say my name and address again? Okay, my name's David Keene, 3704 South Briar Path. This is just a comment that's kind of a joke, but I hope that, we all should consider if all these restaurants are going to be built, fast food restaurants and everything. And part of the deal with them, I would guess, is they want to continue to have growth so their stock can go up, and they just want to build these new restaurants and stuff. And I think we all ought to pray that Amazon doesn't get into the fast food delivery business. Thank you.
Scott,
Abstain.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Brecken,
Aye.
Moore.
Abstain. 17. Resolution approving a 2080 agreement for developmental services with the Sioux City Community School District in Woodbury and Plymouth Counties. Property at 4315 Hamilton Boulevard and 4310 Perry Way, deferred from September 25th, 2017.
I'll move it.
Thank you.
Second. If there wasn't one, I didn't hear one.
No. And Matt, do you want to give an update of some of the concerns or talk about that since you missed the fun last meeting?
Matt Salvatore, Parks and Recreation Director. I just understand there's in the future that there's a desire not to do these swaps in this situation with us not directly owning the bridge. I thought it was a good opportunity for the city to have an easement versus owning the land and not being directly responsible for the bridge.
And you also talked about the connection. Well, I suppose that's the next item.
It's an important connector. There's approximately 1,100 people in the country club area, and there's no direct route to our trail system. There'll be a future connection along Perry Creek, and then there's the outer drive connection that's there right now. And then you have the connection that's happening at Floyd and Outer Drive. Our trail systems are getting linked, and accessibility would be improved through every little connector project like this we can do.
Okay.
Look, my complaint's not with you, it's with the school district. They
I understand.
constantly. Trading this piece of property for that piece of property shouldn't even have been in the discussion, in my opinion. And they tried to pull this on me with the museum building, and I said, no, you're gonna finally pay for something. And here it sneaks in this deal. It just, I'm sorry, we're supposed to get along with the school district, but they do this kind of stuff, and it's irritating on. I would hope their attorney would send them that message in the future, but he hasn't been able to get that done lately, so. Call the roll, please.
Aye.
Moore,
Same.
Scott,
No. 18 is a resolution adopting plans and specs for the Clark's Early Childhood Trail Addition Project deferred from September 25th, 2017.
I'll move it.
Second.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore.
Abstain.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
19 is a motion directing staff to negotiate with Spectra Venue Management for the management of the Tyson Event Center and Orpheum Theater.
I'll move it.
I'd like to speak, please.
Well, we need to get a second first.
Second.
Okay, go ahead.
May I ask before you go into testimony, can I give some background for the benefit of the audience?
Sure. My name's Julie Shaner. I live at 4557 Hamilton Boulevard.
No, what he's asking.
Could I give some background?
He wants to
Oh,
give,
you.
he
Go
wants to
ahead.
give a little
Sure. I'm sorry. I
background
thought you
first.
asked me for mine.
Yeah, just let him give the background.
Your
then-
background,
then you-
Julie. Just talk about your background a little bit.
So go ahead, Bob.
Mayor and council, in the fall of 2016, following some discussion amongst council, the city hired Venue Solutions Group, which is a consulting firm for events facilities, to do a management study of the current Tyson Event Center and Orpheum Theater operations. Included among their recommendations was that the city enter into a no obligation RFP to look at possible private management of Tyson Event Center and the Orpheum Theater. The council directed staff to develop the RFP, and in March of 2017, an RFP was developed and went out. An RFP review committee subsequently received RFPs. The RFP review committee consists of Dave Bernstein from the Orpheum Theater, Assistant City Manager Mike Collette, Bruce Miller from Events Facilities, and myself. Following receipt of the RFPs, they were reviewed by that committee, and subsequently oral presentations were presented to that committee. Following that selection committee recommended that Spectra be chosen as the one private management firm to then be considered against the current operation. Following the meetings with the private firms, we met with city staff and reviewed a reorganization that they offered in competition to the Spectra proposal. Presentations to the city council were subsequently held for both Spectra and the city on September 12th. It was further presented to the EFAB board with the Q&A with Spectra on September 22nd. The EFAB board met again then on September 27th with the Q&A with city staff. And finally, the EFAB board made their recommendation to council at a vote on October 2nd. The recommendations of the various committees are as follows. The RFP panel recommended negotiating with Spectra Management. The Orpheum Theater Preservation Board at a meeting voted to proceed with negotiations with Spectra Management for private management. The Events Facilities Advisory Board voted on October 2nd to keep the operation in-house. And finally, following discussion and listening to all the various input, my personal recommendation is that we begin negotiations with Spectra. This is not an indictment or a criticism of the existing operation. Rather, it was just through discussion with the various boards and my own personal opinion, it's just that we feel that private management could take this to the next level. Their commitment in their proposal is to lower the overall taxpayer subsidy while increasing the number of shows, increasing marketing and group sales, and a better overall fan experience for those attending the Tyson Event Center. At this time, I'd like to introduce Tom McDonald, Director of Business Development for Spectra. Rick Hans,
wait a minute,
Regional
Bob.
VP.
This lady's already
Well, I'm just
up.
going to introduce them and then
Okay,
in case they
all
come. Rick Hans, Regional Vice President for Spectra, and Chris Conley, who serves as General Manager of the Iowa Event Center, but would also have input into the operation of the Tyson Event Center and Orpheum Theater. With that, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Again, my name's Julie Shaner on Boulevard. I'm the owner and operator of Soho Kitchen and Bar on historic 4th Street in Sioux City, Iowa. What I wanted to refer to was taking time and evaluating letting the third party come in and manage for us, the Spectra company. I would like to read something that I posted on my social media when we had 2 events in one night, and they were considered large events, and it was Alanis Morissette at the Hard Rock, and it was Toby Keith at the Tyson. There was a little bit of scuttlebutt, online in the entertainment, a few people saying, oh, why do we have two things at one time? It's never going to work out. Well, this is what I wrote Sunday after a long night of working Saturday night at my downtown restaurant and bar. I'd like to give credit where credit is due. Thank you, Events Facility Director Erica Newton, of whom I've never met before, for booking the Toby Keith concert the same day as the Hard Rock concert with the Alanis Morissette. Downtown Sioux City was alive and exciting. People parked their cars and walked. Imagine that. They filled the new reverse angle parking spaces on 3rd between Virginia and Jennings as well without a 10-car pileup, which had been a little concern with people. Kudos to our Public Works Department for trying something new. People ate, drank to their heart's content on 4th Street, and I'm sure they did in the Pearl Street area as well. Soho's Wait Lounge was full. We had as many as 15 or 20 people waiting out on the street to have dinner in a family-owned business located in a cool, potentially vibrant area in Sioux City. At Soho, we usually have 6 servers. We increased our staff that night to 9. We had an extra cook, a busser, a cocktail runner. We had 100% capacity for 4 hours without fail. I checked my historical reports on August 26th of 2017, and we had set a new gross sales record for any Saturday night in August since 2011. So what does this post mean? It's an example of Sioux City's potential of entertainment and leisure efforts and the effect that it has on our local economy. 3 extra servers, an extra cook, an extra cocktail server, a busser, all made extra income. Sioux City also will be rewarded with 1% of a share of the gross sales, and the state of Iowa will receive 6%, if you get where I'm going with that. I would like everyone to consider this as a part of our quality of life with the city of Sioux City actually working together with downtown. Many of the residents and many visitors enjoy time spent together, and we can repeat this over and over with similar events. It's not just a concert night out on the town that's going to fix everything. I've read negative posts about double booking, about the reverse parking, but I think if we all work together and consider new ideas, we can make this come together locally. We've got to be more positive towards new ideas and changes, and we have to take the time to give these opportunities and these ideas a chance to work. What I wanted to say about this post was, this is my thoughts of what happened and what I witnessed and what I lived through. And with regard to someone outside of our community managing our public events, I don't think it's a good idea. With this being said, this post reached 26,314 people in our Siouxland area, and not one person complained about how the event was managed, how the crowd was managed. Both events were full, and I just want to say that 26,000 people agreed with that. So I think that that proves that our current management is able to do this. I think that we should take the time and perhaps partner with Hard Rock for a year. What do we have to lose? Nothing. They've offered to step up and help us, and Hard Rock is a giant in the entertainment industry. They know how to book acts. We're a giant in Sioux City's industry. So let our current management group work with Tyson and see if we can learn a little bit from each other and take a year's time and really think it through and really drill down and find out what is our area of opportunity for our events. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Julie.
Dave Madsen, 3011 Chestnut Avenue in Sioux City, and I'm the Vice President of the Events Facility Advisory Board. I want to tag on to what Julie just said. I think it's important for us to say, if we think there's a problem with how things have been managed, then let's deal with the problem and figure out what can we do to move forward. And I don't think bringing in an outside firm is necessarily the best idea. Nothing against the people from Spectra, but I think we have an opportunity here with our local people to do a better job at the Tyson and the Orpheum without bringing in an outside firm. I think I've said before, we could give ourselves, just like Julie said, give ourselves some time and try to say, here's exactly what we want to have happen from the Events Facilities Department, and how can we get there? And I don't know that we've done that. So that's all.
Thank you.
Oh, just a second, Tom.
Dave Bernstein, 208 Court Street. I was on the committee with the initial screening committee and also heavily involved with the Orpheum, and one scenario versus another. Certainly there are many things that can be improved with both events at the Orpheum and events at the Tyson Center. within this community. Things are very different than the days of Denny Gann, so to speak, to give Bob heartburn. But just kidding. There's a lot of competition that the city folks have to deal with today, not only for the Tyson Center, but now for the Orpheum as well, whether it's Broadway, whether it's concerts at the Tyson Center. It is a whole different world today than it was 5 years ago, or certainly 10 years ago when the Tyson Center opened. And in order to compete, you need to make sure you have all the resources humanly possible to do the best job possible. You have a great staff here led by Erica and many other folks involved. And the question is, how do you get them the most resources humanly possible to be able to compete against Sioux Falls, Omaha, Lincoln, Des Moines to a point, and others as well. And that involves the synergies of a much larger organization. Personally, I feel this is long overdue. It should have been looked at a long time ago. I think part of that falls on the council and the Orpheum board and also EFAB as well. If you look at numbers, you look at attendance numbers and things that go into these buildings, by no fault of Eric or the staff, anyone paying attention to those can see that there are significant challenges to compete today as opposed to 10 years ago. And this is something that probably should have happened a long time ago. Also, if you dig into the cost structure of private versus public and the fact that these venues do really compete in the private sector world of selling tickets, which I think is why in general, except for one set of venues in Omaha, you're competing against privately managed venues. If you look at the cost structure, the benefits, to cut to the chase, IPERS and the health insurance, the load of the city, the requirement for the 30-hour exemption and how that plays with a bulk of the employees, I think you could easily come to the conclusion that an arrangement with Spectra pays for itself very quickly. And in my personal opinion, and also on both the Orpheum's board and the selection committee, only benefits the city. I see no downside in this solution, in this decision, and it's a difficult decision. For sure, the city's run these venues for decades and decades as public venues, but the time is now to seriously look at changing and trying to provide more resources to improve the situation. And I know it's a difficult situation, but really seems to be the way to go. The Orpheum specifically in our resolution, which there was only one no vote in our resolution, there were a couple people who were unable to participate, but overwhelmingly supported the recommendation, put great deference in the retention of the excellent employees that we have at the Orpheum, and also as part of the EFAB operation, starting with Erica. There are a lot of great people that work in that organization, and you need to give them all the tools humanly possible, even though it's uncomfortable, to be able to compete. And the only way to do that is switch to private management. And there was no question in our meetings that Spectra was the choice to proceed with. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Hello, Jared Knutson, 3619 Pierce Place. I belong to two of the nonprofit volunteer groups that work at the Tyson, and I just have a question for the council. For one of them is the Abubecker Shriners. Just to let you know, year to date, or the last 2 years, we've been able to donate over $4,000 to the Shriners Hospital for Children. I don't know if you're all aware that they help children who have special needs at no cost to the families. What is the position on the council to continuing allowing the nonprofit volunteer groups to stay if it does change to private management?
That would not change at all.
That would not change at all? Okay, thank you.
My name's David Keene again at 3704 South Briar Path. I just wanted to mention that a couple of comments that were made earlier from Dave Bernstein that, you know, we are competing with Sioux Falls and Omaha, let's say. I would say that we ought to get out of that mindset that we're not necessarily competing with them, especially in this kind of a situation, because Spectra, I hope this is not associated with Phil Spectra. That's that this organization, Spectra, ought to be able to know what groups are where all the time, pretty much, many of them anyway, and who's playing with them and their backup bands. And they could easily have a situation where they could book the Orpheum or the Tyson Center for just the main band
and not have the backup band play, have the ticket price reduced or something, and have a shorter concert. And they can fill in a date in Sioux City and still have the Omaha or Sioux Falls concert and just do some fill-in work in Sioux City. That would be awesome, and I'm sure it's possible. So, you know, there's possibilities out there. We just have to be open-minded about it, and thank you for letting me speak. Thanks.
Thank you.
Christy Hardy, 2406 Myrtle Street, Local 212, President, District 3, Vice President for Iowa, Council 61, Missouri, and Kansas. We've seen how contracting worked out before with contracting out services. It doesn't save money. It always costs us in the long run. City staff has done a great job. I have people working down there right now. They're on edge trying to figure out what they're going to do, if they're going to have a job or not. I've seen where city employees go work for the private contractor, and then they get treated very poorly. Granted, you save on insurance, but in the long run, city staff does a great job. All you gotta do is do some tweaking to what's going on down there. Partner up with the Hard Rock, give it a chance to see what happens. Contracting out is not always the solution. We've proven that time and time again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Tom McDonald. I'm Director of Business Development for Spectra. I didn't want to come up here and talk about our proposal again. I think everybody's had the chance to review that. I did want to talk. We've discussed the reasons why, with our ability to lower the subsidy, getting resources, our relationships, our knowledge, and best practices. But I really wanted to talk about on behalf of Spectra is some of the concerns, some of the questions, and really some inaccuracies about what it means to work with a professional management company and work with Spectra. And I think number one, really overall, is the concern that you're going to lose control of these facilities. As I mentioned in our presentation, we're really going to be acting as another department of the city. The city will continue to make policies, and Spectra just is going to implement the best proper procedures for those policies. And there's going to be regular reporting, weekly, monthly, and annual reports that will be provided by Spectra to the city to track our progress, but also keep us held accountable. And the city continues to control a lot of the approvals for major decisions that are used in these facilities, including our annual budget, including the staffing as well. Any of the fees that are charged to facilities, as I know, was a concern. So there's a lot of still local control that is put in place by working with a professional management company. And I think if you talk to our clients, our current clients, you would see that that control is out there. I know there's a concern about the staff, as we heard. It's simply not true that we're going to come in and turn over the staff. As we mentioned to the Orpheum Board, we're committed to keeping the staff. We do this in all of our facilities. We don't have the ability to just bring in brand new staff. So they will be on board as well, and the staff will really benefit. They're going to benefit from additional training, additional resources to their everyday jobs, career advancement opportunities. It's really going to take them and the facility to the next level. And then the idea that really working with a company outside will slow down in a transition and it'll take us a long time to learn about this market is simply not true, because a lot of the staff will be in place, and these are the ones that know the market and know the history of these facilities. But we do have a dedicated transition team that we know will make this a smooth transition for the city. There's been some recent concern too about the ability to handle more events, and I know that's been a part that came up about having more events down into the city. We feel that the community's kind of questioning if we'll be able to handle this, and there really hasn't been any feasibility studies completed to really answer that. We wouldn't come here if we didn't believe in the city and that the city would be able to handle these more events that we're adding. We have done our homework, we've done our research, we've talked with the Chamber of Commerce, we've talked with economic development. We know the positive economic growth that has occurred here. We've also been in organizations, and we've seen the successful events that have happened, as we talked about with Toby Keith and Alanis Morissette, and successful events at these facilities, but also at the Hard Rock. And we're not just talking about concerts. Spectra, we believe that a variety of events is needed here. And we see the ability to add additional family shows, additional sporting events, and also additional private events. And when we talked about the Hard Rock, I know the city and Spectra has also had conversation with the Hard Rock, and we are willing to work together and come up with a similar agreement that the Events and Facilities Board has also worked out with the Hard Rock. So we're looking forward to working with them and really can have the best of both proposals from there. We did talk about the regional competition. It's not an excuse that we will use. We know that these facilities will need professional management and need the support of a larger company to compete against those. It's really just they need a voice out in the industry to make sure that they're getting these events and they know what events are going on, as was discussed. And lastly, I think it's not just about events to us. As we mentioned in our proposal, it's about improving the current events. It's improving the ticket sales, and we've done our analysis of the marketing program and what's needed to increase digital, increase their website usage, the increase of event promoter support, and also group sales, as Bob said. That's 20% of overall ticket sales in our industry, and it's an area that we think is being missed. There's significant areas for growth in sponsorship and premium seating that can get these facilities up to industry standards. Efficiencies in food and beverage, as we talked about, and the ability to save on expenses. We see with future renovations and improvement projects that may be put in place, Spectra has a purchasing program that can support in cost savings for purchased items, and also we have an operations department that can lead in those projects. So you're not having to go out to hire an additional consultant to come in and work on those projects. And overall, just improving the customer experience and the customer service at the facilities. We've heard concerns that we won't be able to do what we say. We have the history, we have the experience, and I think we've shown similar markets where we've been able to do this. We're not here to paint that rosy picture, as I know has been called. We're not here to fail. It looks bad on us if we say one thing and we're not able to accomplish. We would rather not be here than actually come in and fail, because that doesn't help our future. And plus, if we do fail, we have to remember there is a contract coming up too. If we are selected, we would be involved in a contract that would have termination clauses as well. So I believe our projections are pretty conservative compared to other proposals out there as well. And we've been able to show that we've been able to make these improvements as we've done before. Concerns with paying of a management fee. As you may have seen in our pro forma shows that the city will save money with all of our fees included. And we only really make incentives if we do better than what the current staff is doing. In addition, we have also offered a significant capital investment of up to $500,000, which that's almost 5 years of our management fee. And lastly, I know there's concerns with the idea of delaying this process. This is your decision. We're not telling you have to make a decision right now, but we've seen this before. We hear that there's some concerns about the staff being uneasy and having questions, and I think making a decision will put them at ease as they go into a busy time of the year with the hockey season starting. And we know the city's been here before. We've been here 3 years ago and have had discussions about private management, and we're back. You've issued an RFP about this now, so we're happy to see that you're taking another look. The current setup's been given the opportunity. We know that there's some great staff there, but eventually they just reach a level where they probably can't go any further than what they are doing right now. So that's why we're excited to be here. We're excited to be a part of Sioux City, and we see that this is the time to make a change. And if given the opportunity, we believe that we can make the same changes that we've done for numerous other cities around the country in similar situations, at similar facilities as Sioux City is right now.
I'm abstaining, but I do have some questions. First, for Bob, did we look for other food vendors? That concerns me because that's a huge part of.
There were 2 RFPs that went out. One was for a one was the management RFP with an option of just bidding straight management or management and food.
But you didn't bid a straight food.
Yes, we did. If the city were to choose to stay with in-house, we have an RFP that was for straight food that has been received responses from. It's in a holding pattern until this is determined.
Well, in all fairness, I have to be careful because I'm abstaining, but I think I have right to ask questions. Why didn't we know what those bids were and how they stacked up against this one?
Because they're totally separate.
I know.
The food service by itself, which Spectra is one of two respondents to.
Right.
Because we thought in the recommendation of the panel and at the end of the day was we felt there's more economies of scale by having the manager, if they are willing to offer food service, also offer food service. They offered superior or superb responses to the food service side in both their individual food service recommendation or RFP, but also in their overall management RFP.
So we talked earlier, and your big push is group sales and that, and I understand that, but so say you go out and sell 500 group sales for a football game for me. What do I owe you for that?
It's an agreement we would come up with. Typical standard agreement in our industry is usually about a 10% commission, but it's really can be negotiated based upon how much time they're spending on your specific your team.
And then, what ticket service do you use?
We use a variety of ticket services. Ticketmaster, Paciolan. I know eTix is in this facility, so we're not dedicated to one specific ticket service.
Well, it would seem to me you'd have a lot of clout if you were dedicated to one.
We were at one point. We recently sold off our ticket service.
Can I just add to that?
Sure.
Rick Hans, the Regional Vice President. To answer your question, whatever ticket service that we would use, we would vet a bunch of them to see what's best for the city and best for our tenants. So it's important to realize that we're not married to one, but we would, be in a situation where we would, whatever is best for the city and our tenants, we would recommend.
Well, I understand that, but these guys did that, and I'm not sure that the one that they chose, and you were part of it, and Donna was part of it, I'm not sure the one they chose was the best for the people that use the facility, quite frankly. I think it was best for them. But I don't think it's a good deal for me. On some days, that fee is greater than the ticket price. So how is that a good deal for me?
And that's tough for me or us to answer because we don't know how they vetted it. But
well,
we certainly.
I guess I want to know as you negotiate your contract, how you're going to determine, is it best for you and the city, or is it best for the people that are using and the customers? Because why should a customer have to pay a $5 fee or something like that, which most of it goes back, it doesn't stay with the ticket, it goes back to you, or
it wouldn't go back to us.
Oh yes, some of it does in that arrangement. Yes, it does.
Well, I don't know in that arrangement.
Not in this one, it wouldn't. It would all go to the city.
I understand that, but what good does that do the customer, and what good does that do the hockey team, and what good does that do the concert goer? It's great for the city, but it's really not good when I have a fee greater than my ticket price. That's not a good deal.
Well, one thing, when we send RFPs out and we get responses back for ticketing, we sit down with the city and we'll spell out all the advantages and disadvantages.
I don't want you to sit down only with the city. I'm talking as an owner here.
Right.
Forget that I'm sitting here as mayor.
Well, it's got to work for the tenant too. I mean, it has to work for all of our
that's what they
tenants,
told
yeah.
me the last time, and it worked horribly.
But that wasn't our group.
I understand that, but I'm just telling you, that's a big deal for hockey and us.
Totally understand.
When you it's like when they wanted to do parking for hockey and football, and the parking was going to be greater than our ticket prices. Those sort of things kill local events.
I think it depends on the company too, Mr. Mayor. Some of the companies will allow us to change fees, so I think we can make that a part of the RFP process to be able to customize it based on the event.
Well, I'm just saying this, the local vendors and the local concert promoters and the local sports teams pay a high enough fee in that $1.50 that you shouldn't nick us like you have been on then the fees that you take and we get nothing for.
Well, I think that gets back to the whole desire and need to sell more tickets.
That doesn't do me any good if it...
But it does do you good in the long...
Just telling you that it hasn't been the best for some of the stuff.
I have some questions if you're done, Mayor.
Yeah, I am.
Okay. this is really a difficult decision to weigh in. And one thing I want to try to make clear, if I can, is that I appreciate Spectra making the proposal, but I don't look at it as two proposals before us. I look at it as Spectra's and then how we do things in the city. Because Erica Newton and her team are the city. And I just don't want to create any divisions or any internal problems, because we need to unite and stand together on anything we do. It's a team effort, in my opinion. And what I did, I rely heavily, I don't make any secret of this, but I rely heavily on our boards and commissions. And the EFAB board has made its recommendations. I have the Orpheum Theater Board's proposal. I have Mr. Padmore's recommendation, and it was kind of all over the board for me. It was really scattered, quite frankly. And it goes to Mr. Bernstein's point about, kind of hit a nerve with me about, we kind of have this situation today because there's been a disconnect of some kind. Erica Newton comes to council to get certain things approved, and we might say no, we might say yes. We're not, I don't know about that. I haven't had time to actually look at the records to see, but that's the feeling I'm getting. EFAB board, over the years, they have been brought issues. They've had discussions. They've had access to council. We've had joint meetings, and I'm concerned that a lot of the push hasn't come either way, from us to them or from them to us. And I just give you that background because there's a lot of deliberation that I think is required in this decision to be made. It's no secret on my part that I like to process things. I like to think about it. And if I need another week to do that, I'm going to ask council for another week to do that, depending on what else is said today for input. And some of my questions may not be fair, but I want to ask them because they're important to me. What I ended up doing, quite frankly, is I made a, and I was trying to be careful with my words. Is it pros and cons? Is it fors and against? So I ended up with advantages and disadvantages of all the input. I took all the input that I could get from all of the EFAB board, Mr. Padmore, everyone actually but the council members, and I tried to summarize the advantages and disadvantages. And I did that with Spectra, and then I did that with us. And I want to just address some of yours, but some of these, I would like to know if we enter into negotiations, contract negotiations, that somehow, and I know there's a balancing here with employees, but somehow I want to protect our employees. And I don't mean just for the first year, I don't mean for the second year, but I mean for long term, because Mr. DeHardy raised some good points. And out of all these materials that I have, and I think you've seen a lot of them, out of all these materials we have, there hasn't been one criticism of our dedicated long-term employees, even our short-term employees. They're dedicated, they're loyal, they'll do anything to make the Tyson Event Center a success. I don't want council, I don't want this council member, but I don't want council to do anything that's going to hurt that. I want to do everything in our power contractually that we can. Now, I'm a lawyer, but I don't do any HR work, and it'll show with some of my comments, but, I don't want to have you in your presentation, you retain over 90% of city employees. But I don't want anything to happen to that after the first 6 months, after the year. I don't want an excuse that we're poorly performing because of our employees. We have poor performance because of this or because of that. And then we run into a serious, because that would be a very serious problem for me, because there hasn't been one negative comment made about these employees. So I want to just be abundantly clear on that, and I'm probably repeating myself, and I apologize. The other thing I don't want to have affected, if we can help it, is we've had a couple of long-term concessions. They do concessions better than anybody, but they're private. They're privately owned and operated within the center. And I would like to hang on to that. I'd like to retain that.
And we outsource
And
that in a lot
Mr.
of our facilities.
Padmore assured me that would not affect those concessions. But you're coming into a hometown and you have a lot of good ideas, and this whole thing has really kicked a lot of ideas wide open. And I'm all for discussion, I really am. Just because we discuss it doesn't mean I necessarily agree with you, but I want to have open discussion. Another thing that I want to try to make crystal clear, I liked it when you said you're really going to be a department of the city, but what I wrestled with when I went through my advantages and disadvantages is that Spectra was on a corporate organizational chart. You usually have somebody at the top and then it comes down and branches out. Spectra was on the same level as the city manager. If you're going to act like and be a city department, would you not be below the city manager in the chain of command? And I want to be careful of those words too. I don't want to offend you. I don't want to upset the city manager. But in the chain of command, would you not be the next level down from that?
Absolutely, we report to the city. So yeah, I'm not really sure if it was to fit it in the box, but we certainly aren't the same level as the city manager. We report to the city on everything we do.
It was you were so kind. I asked this for the next day, and you were so kind to send this to me, and I just thought, well, this is equal, because it does appeal to me that you're willing to kind of fit in a city department kind of box, if you will.
Like that.
But that's one thing I had. So if you could bear with me, Council, if you don't mind, because I spent a lot of time putting this together, and it's just taking in all the input that we had, or that I had, okay? Some of it might not be accurate. I might be quoting it the wrong way. You can just stop me anytime. Sure. But I'm going to start with the disadvantages. Disadvantages, there's a management fee plus, okay? More events doesn't guarantee more revenue. More events do not guarantee more revenue. Is that a fair statement?
It's got to be, yeah, I mean, absolutely. But our goal isn't to put more events in to lose more money. So our goal is to decrease that deficit. So we're not, our number one goal is just to put as many events in there as possible. If they're not good events, quality events, that's very important. Quality events, it's going to make the city money.
It's to make smart decisions on the events, make sure that we're getting the best deals possible as well.
I just want, full, not that you haven't been transparent and full disclosure, but I just want to make that, because that's what I'm pulling in from you. So I'm so far accurate in what I'm reading. The city would continue to carry the financial responsibility for operations and capital improvements at both facilities.
Yes, that's correct. We have offered our capital investment, but yes, the city would continue to, be the operating.
Okay, so if you're doing something at Tyson and there's something physical, the facility that you're not agreeable with, then you would go to the city manager to voice that concern. The city manager then would come to city council. Is that how?
Correct.
Because I don't see that working a whole lot different than what Erica Newton does now. And what I've been told, and I haven't researched this to know that it's factual, but what I've been told is that the council doesn't always agree with what is being asked by the director. And we have that with all directors. Of course we do. We're going to try to be prudent and do the right thing for the taxpayers' money. But that's something that I could see as being something very delicate that you see that needs to be done. And council says, I don't think we're going to be able to do that. I don't think we have that in our budget. I don't think we want to spend that kind of money at this facility this year because we have money that's needed over here, something along those lines.
Right. The difference, I would say, is that I'm going to use a real life example in Casper, Wyoming. A year ago, we wanted to renovate and add some premium seating, and I won't go into all the details, but we took it to our contract administrator there as the city manager, and we were able to bring a whole operations team in there to explain how it would work, how much it would cost, and then we had our corporate sales department come in, okay, this is what should be done, this is what it will cost, and this is how we can recoup the money within 3-4 years. Because of our resources, we were able to provide a big explanation and a really good explanation to the council so they can make an educated decision on that. So the difference would be that we would have the resources behind how we've seen, this is how we've seen it work, this is how it would be done, this is what it would cost, but this is the revenue opportunities. And it would be just it would be coming from a wide range of expertise and experts in the field.
But there would be options for the city to say, no, not at this time. We're giving the reasons why we think we would need them, but the final say would still come. And even with our capital investment, that is to be used at the discretion of the city as well.
Okay. I would like to try to have something like that covered in the contract if that's possible. There was discussion, and I'm not sure which group raised this, about the future of tourism and our tourism board and how that's going to be handled. What's the answer? And I just put that under the disadvantage column because I wasn't sure what the answer was to
Sure,
that.
and maybe that's something we'll discuss with, we understand they might not take the full Convention and Visitors Bureau as we have it now, but there are components of that I think they would take and run with, whether it be some of the events that we promote under local tourism. Those are some things that we need to be addressed, but overall, I think we could elevate that as well.
And Mr. Moore, that was something that wasn't listed in the RFP, so we did not want to assume that we would be taking over the CVB. I will say that we do run a CVB in Enid, Oklahoma through our facility. That is an arena and a convention center, so we do have the experience, and then in all of our other facilities, we work very closely with the CVBs in our markets.
And that was a decision by the city of Enid. We were there for a year, and they asked if we could if we could run the CVB for them. We said yes.
What facility do you have in Enid? The one out on the fairgrounds?
No, that's an older facility. This is called the Central National Bank Center. It's a building that was built 6 years ago, I believe. We've been managing it ever since.
The last item I have on the minus side of things would be no guarantees. There won't be any guarantees in the contractually, which would be difficult for you to do. I understand that. It'd be a guarantee of your capital investment of 300. I had 375,000. That's the first year.
That's the first round, yeah. I will say on the guarantee that was not listed again in the RFP. So we did bid as a management fee. If the city did want to look at some type of guarantee risk, I think that that's something we would have to look at. It would probably change our proposal. We really only have guarantees on bottom lines in 5 of our facilities across the country because it is a better financial deal for the cities if we do a management fee style deal that way. So it is not something that we did because it wasn't in the RFP to list any guarantees or to take it as a lease of the facility. I would say on a guarantee, it's really something we would need to get to know the facilities a little bit more. There's really needs to be more of a stabilized period to see, what that kind of, situation would be, what we would need to be guaranteeing and where we would be able to reach that. So that would be after some stabilization period.
Okay. And then the other thing I pulled in from these reports from the various boards under the advantages, there'd be improved marketing. You deal with a large national network for marketing, single contract for food service and management of facilities. Your experience has been with similar sized facilities that Sioux City has. Your corporate sponsorship connections, you would improve non-event revenues through corporate sponsorship connections. You have buying power, the other things. And I want to emphasize our long-term city employees, nurturing and mentoring and advancements. It appears to be easier for you to book big name acts than it is for the city. You have expertise in what has become, it's becoming more and more a highly specialized profession. And I do think we have to be in. Your capital investment, so initially is $375,000, and the city council would be, in working with Erica Newton, would be free to use those funds as we see fit, or are there going to be restrictions on how that would be spent?
We have made recommendations, but when we do get involved in a contract, it really does come down to the city to make final decisions on how that revenue is used, how that money is used.
Okay, would that be covered in the contract?
Yes.
then?
I was gonna say, or would that come back to us, or it just?
It would be included in the contract. We would include what that funding would be used for.
There'd be a reduction in the annual operating subsidy, at least that's what we were pulling for. And then improvements made to the consumer experience, which, by the way, the city has worked hard to make that consumer experience a good experience, and I think they have been successful just because of the nature of who turns out for these events that we have at Tyson Event Center. And I want you to know that too. I have the same thing for the city. I can get to that shortly, but I've spoken enough, but I wanted to just really make some of these points with you that's what I would be looking for in a contract. I have objectives that I pulled from EFAB and from Mr. Padmore's group and the Orpheum Theater group, and you've covered most of those. I think identifying quarterly and annual goals to be met by Spectra, as well as contract cancellation clauses if those goals are not being met, that there be some kind of a mutual exit plan, and that's the lawyer in me. I apologize. You shouldn't be looking at the negatives, but you have to plan for that. You have to know that when you go into a partnership with someone that, you know, they're only going to be as good as who they are and not so much what the written contract is, unfortunately. We've talked about the organizational chart. The city would have the final word regarding parking, concessions, and ticket fees. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And deference should be given to the current executive director and those staff members nearing retirement, as well as those who have an exemplary employment record with the city of Sioux City. So thank you for allowing me to go over the points that are important to me, and hopefully we'll have that in the record, because I would be looking, if we move forward with this, with the negotiations, and that's what the action is being asked today, is to negotiate a contract. But going forward, that's what I would be looking for in the contract provisions. As a city attorney will tell you, I do read the contracts. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will be quiet for a while. And I handed out to the council members my advantages and disadvantages for you all to have. And I'm not saying I covered them all, but I tried my best.
Yeah.
I spent the weekend doing this.
I'll pick it up from here, maybe, give Dan a break. And Dan, I appreciate your time to put your document together. I think it does highlight a lot of the advantages and disadvantages. And if one were to read all the information that was provided to us, I think these are the conclusions that most of us would come up with. I would tell you that there are two things from my perspective, and it's not a surprise, I don't think, because Ian got to me over the weekend and we talked a little bit about it, and it ended up in the paper. But I have two really big issues that concern me, and the first is, and Dan points it out as the disadvantage on the public or city side, is the department's deficit. And I know, after receiving financials from our finance director, Donna Forker, that there was a 15-year, and I should probably address it not only to everybody but the council, there's a 15-year period of time there, starting with FY04 through the current fiscal year 2018, that if you look at the total subsidy, and I added up the total subsidy for the 15 years to include the estimate for FY18, it's about $11.2 million. On the average, if you divide it, simple little math, by 15, you're around $750,000. Relatively low, maybe around $300,000, but in the last 4, it was up around 700 plus, then 800 plus, and now this year the estimate is close to $1 million to provide subsidy at the end of the budget year. So the trend is it's costing more to provide a budget to do what we're able to do with so far. I concur with Councilmember Moore about the quality of city employees, and Chris, I know I too agree that there are a lot of really good people in the city. I wouldn't be involved if I didn't think they were good people. And I had a lot of experience around the city for a long period of time. But that deficit really causes me to believe that a reasonably prudent person would think after 15 years of continuous deficits that we really need to be serious about taking a strong look at what we're doing and maybe what the possibility is. I think maybe the obvious question is, to me, is if I were a business person, after 15 years of losses, would I not want to look at trying to make improvements and to better the organization? And I think it's to our advantage that and for that very reason, I think it's to our advantage to research and to go out and get the RFPs and to see what's out there and what would work well for us. I've never been under the impression that city personnel would not be part of the package. So I think that's a given to me, but like they are with the city of Sioux City, I expect that they need to perform for Spectra as well if they want to continue to be employed there. Some may make the decision not to participate, but I think this is an opportunity. I think the resources, that would be my second big point. I think the resources that Spectra would bring to bear for us, and help me if I've got the numbers wrong, because I'm going back to the presentation, but I seem to recall something about 200 plus, maybe 220 food and beverage agreements or something like that. Correct. 155 venues. I think there were some about 77 partnerships. I'm not quite certain what the partnerships all are. Close. But the opportunity to draw on that expertise, and I know Eric has got a tough job. Basically, one person going out, and I'm not even sure, 4, 5, 6 times a year or more, trying to make connections with promoters and convince council that she needs more money to get things done. It's tough, but this seems like an opportunity that is worth taking to me because of the resources that you bring to bear. Again, there's a question in the back of my mind after I spent all morning talking to people on the telephone that called me about this, I presume after reading the article in the Journal. And the nagging question right now for me is whether or not we really want additional concerts, because we're not sure, it seems, that people are willing to pay to go to concerts. And I hear the argument that our seating capacity is in the area of 8,000, and the venues around us, almost in a 360 circle, they range from 15 to 18 maybe, somewhere in that area. And why would they stop in Sioux City and not want to go to a larger venue, ultimately get more profit? The city will never be self-supporting. I don't expect that to happen. I think it's a responsibility of the city to improve the quality of life for people, to provide amenities that make people happy and want to continue to live here. But I'll back up just a minute and ask you if you have an answer for the question, why would people want to come to Sioux City when they can go to these other venues very near us, within driving range certainly, where there would be twice the experience that they could?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't agree with that they have twice the experience, because we want to have them the best experience they have here. For the promoters, but when the promoters choose, sometimes they don't get to choose. Sometimes the agents choose. But we can get Sioux City in the conversation where it wasn't in the conversation in the past for these tours. And I mentioned before during our presentation, when we're booking shows, they want to be able to say, we have 6 dates. Can you fill 6 dates for us? So that's how Sioux City becomes part of that conversation. So there's a lot of different scenarios, and not always. There's more bands selling 8,000 seats and below than bands selling 8,000 seats and above. So there's going to be more opportunities for those smaller venues, because not everybody can sell 15,000 seats. And again, there's more bands that sell 8,000 less. So it's not always going after more concerts too. I mean, it's great. We want to bring more concerts here, but that's not just the answer. The answer is the whole experience, other events, making sure the events that we do have, we're maximizing the ticket sales, maximizing the customer experience, and ultimately maximizing the revenue for each of those shows. So that's how we get to that bottom line deficit and bring that down. But back to your question, why Sioux City? Why not? We just need you to be more conversations when you're booking. I know Erica does a great job, and she's in contact with the agents, but you guys are you're on an island here. When they're booking, agents they don't want to deal with Sioux cities across the country, like one off. You know how hard that is to book shows like that. They want to, like, I'm going to Nashville. I'm not sure if she might be in Nashville next week. It's a big conference for concerts. Well, guess what? I'm sitting down with 12 of our venues in this region with all the agents and promoters. And we're having a conversation with each one of them. What shows do you have? I have this. So, what buildings? I need about 5 or 6 dates. What buildings do you have? That's the real conversations that's going to happen on Monday and Tuesday. So, that's how we bring more shows here.
I think maybe Tom mentioned, or possibly you, Chris, considering new ideas. Do you have new ideas that you think would work?
Well, I mean,
or is it too early for that?
Way too early, but we
Okay.
get in there and we will look at every opportunity to generate more revenue, to make the customer service experience better. But we absolutely will be challenging our staff to come up with ideas and look at things, how we can do things better, more effectively, and ultimately lead to a better experience and more revenue. I mean, that's what we do. That's what we're good at.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, I guess it's my turn. I got a couple things to say. First of all, I think that when this whole thing started out 3 years ago, we were on the edge. We didn't know what to do. And we've come along 3 years later, and things haven't got any much better. And I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more things coming to town. We have great people in town. We have great people that will support it. We're also talking about area people. That's how you get people in here. And once people get to Sioux City, they're going to see what we have, and that's going to be our job also, not only to promote the arena or whatever, but to promote outside of what we have here in Sioux City. We have the Hard Rock, we have 4th Street, we have Pearl Street. Everybody's going to benefit. Not only is the Tyson events that are going to benefit, but the whole Sioux City is going to benefit. That's what it's all about to me. So I've owned businesses. I know what it's like. And I'm telling you, I wouldn't stay in a business if I was losing money every year. You can't do that. You can't go backwards. You have to go forward, or at least break even. So that's my thought on that. A leader is only as good as the people that you're surrounded by. And I'm telling you, we have great people here in Sioux City. We're surrounded by wonderful people. Erica's there. To me, that's what's going to make it work. You keep the people that want to be here. You keep the people that want to work for you. And I'm telling you, when you go into something new, it's new for everybody. It's not just new for your people that you employ. It's new for the city. And people are scared of change sometimes, and I understand that because I've changed my whole. I went from owning a bar to doing home health care. Well, I mean, that's kind of a big change, right? But you got to do what's going to work best for you. And that's how I feel. As far as the Hard Rock, I think Hard Rock is willing to work with Spectra or the city. So as far as that, they're not our saving grace. There's more things out there than what are actually even being said now. And we have a lot of good things here in Sioux City. When Garth Brooks was in Sioux Falls, I went to the Garth Brooks show. This was on a Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock, and it was sold out. 17,000 seats, I believe they had. And it was a great experience. I don't know how they pulled it off, but 17,000 people coming and going. It was raining. They had another concert. He played late. They had another concert coming at 6 o'clock. He didn't get on stage till 8:30. I'm glad I had the early show. But they got people in, they got people out. They were friendly, welcoming, happy to see us. I mean, it was a good experience. So the bottom line here for me, for Spectra, is it's the experience. And you take care of the people that take care of you. That's the bottom line. We want to be the, we want to be the happy people here in town. You know, we want to welcome people. We want to show them what we have. And I think between the employees that we have here now, and if you need to fill in with more employees, you're going to do that. That's how it works. Some people are not going to accept the idea that they're going to work for another company because they're not used to it. They're, you know, a lot of them have been there for years and years. But when I've talked to you guys, I feel very comfortable that you're going to be very welcoming, and these people are going to feel comfortable and feel like they have something to look forward to, not like, oh no, what's going to happen today? So that's going to be up to you to give them that good experience and that good feeling. And when your help have good feelings, you have great, everything works. When you have happy people, them happy people make more people happy. So that's what it's all about to me. So I'm with Spectra.
And then there was one. I don't know. I think I understand Dan's point when he talks a little bit about how it's an incredibly complex situation and issue. I think there's so many different ways to look at it and things to measure. And I know I talked to Ian and a few people about it. Well, quite a few people about it as well. What I'm weighing at, I wish I could put it in a format similar to Dan's mind. I appreciate the breakdown here, thinking about this, because I think that at the end you have to do a cost benefit analysis. You have to see where your investment is going to be in order to make the most beneficial decision that you can, right? And I think that we need to hold ourselves accountable to taxpayers and make sure that we're putting forth the best investment that we can. We're taking care of the people that we have, and really looking to the future for what we want to be as a venue, as a city, all those things. So some things that I think about, number one were our employees. I mean, I talked with you when you came and when we talked about that at the pitch or whatever you would want to call it. I talked about the concern of that because I know a lot of those employees and I've been contacted by a lot of them, and I know and I understand what Mr. DeHardy was talking about their concerns and worried for their jobs and things like that. I was very reassured when I heard that when you took over the Casper facility that you hired it was over 90% at that one. I mean, I thought it was virtually 100%.
It was 100%. Yeah.
100%.
There was one person that chose not to basically retire.
So, I mean, I look at instances like that, and I mean, I think that's a perfect example where you were able to transition and hire 100% of the workforce that was interested in being there. And I think we have some of the best employees anywhere. And so I think that they'll prove to you why they deserve those spots and why they'll work hard to make it beneficial either way. I think we have a lot of opportunity and great people working for us, and I don't think that's going to change. I do also think about tag. I think that people generally have almost like sticker shock or whatever you would want to say, right? Like now the council's wanting to pay $110,000 a year just to manage this facility. Why don't we just keep it the way it's going? Why do we have to change something up and pay someone else to come in there? And sometimes it's hard because that money seems like it's outgoing, right? Like oh my gosh, we're paying more of this. But what we're failing to realize sometimes is a lot of money is going out right now. You just don't see that in the subsidy, right? It's just part of the budget process. And I think that's what Pete was talking about too, is just the cost of that and breaking that down of what it is. And I want us to think how we can reduce that subsidy and being creative about it. And I think you have a proposal that might be able to do that. I also think about the EFAB, and because like Dan, I put a lot of weight behind recommendations that were given. I know that everyone was giving it due consideration, and I know a lot of people. I served on the EFAB board and listened to what they have to say. When I was reading the president's recommendation, it sounded like a lot of it was more upset with the process rather than the warrant, or rather than the merit of your proposal or the city's proposal. And when I listened to Mr. Madsen, or Professor Madsen, as I guess as I would refer to him as, and some of the things that he brings up, I guess what's tough for me is if we did go down this path a few years ago, right, where we looked at whether it would be beneficial to go down this path, I just would challenge us to really look at ourselves and say, well, in what ways did we improve? How were we proactive in trying to reduce that deficit or that subsidy? And I know some ideas have been brought forward about what we could do in different ways to be more strategic with those things. And in a lot of instances, I didn't see them being implemented. Or another perfect example is, since I've been on council, the only thing that's come to my attention as far as being asked to improve, or ways saying, hey, we want to do this, we think will be better for customer experience or what have you, is the concrete work on the outside. And I think there are other things that we could be improving and working on, and whether that Erica and the team don't feel that they can come and request those funds or really push for those things, I'm not sure. But it feels so reactionary in nature, and I think that is the detriment of cities, of organizations, of things like that, is when you're reactionary in nature. I want us to think 10 steps down the road. What are we going to do to implement or do to reduce things now and really set ourselves up to be successful in the future? And I think that, to Dan's point as well, I said it in the public meeting before when you were presenting, and I'll say it again now, it does feel like there are two different teams, and it shouldn't be, because this city is our team. You know what I mean? And I mean what I said when I know we have great employees and we have a great staff, and sometimes, to Mr. Bernstein's point, I agree, we just don't have the resources to be as competitive as we could be in today's market. And that's challenging, right? And that's sometimes a tough pill to swallow. And I think that there are opportunities moving forward that we might need to address and look at, but I want to make sure that we're having a proactive nature rather than a reactive one. So there's some of the things that I guess I've been thinking a lot about.
Okay.
Take 5.
I guess if you need to, we will.
Okay.
Take a 5-minute recess.
Okay.
Seriously. It's Christmas for you.
There might be others, Bob.
My name's David Keene, 3704 South Briar Path. I really didn't have much of an opportunity to find out what this topic was all about until the last few days. And there's just some ideas that I had. I wish I would have brought a notepad and a pen to write some things down. But anyway, there was a pretty thorough search of what options we have as far as an organization that does booking like this? Okay. All right. And I'm wondering, would they be exclusive booking agents for us for the Tyson and Orpheum Theater?
I'm sorry, ask that again.
What's that?
I didn't hear your question, I'm sorry.
Okay, I was wondering if they'd be the exclusive booking agents for the Tyson Center and the Orpheum Theater then?
Bob, I don't know the answer to that. I'm assuming so, yes.
Yeah, as the manager, it would be similar to what it is now, but they would work through a variety of booking agents, promoters. So that would be, it'd be no different than it is now, other than the connections they have in the marketplace.
So previously, Sioux City was the only, the Department of Sioux City managed that. They were the exclusive booking agents.
Yes.
Okay, well, what if someone, I don't know how this all works, but what if an entertainment person, an agent out there, I don't know if it works this way or not, I'm just asking a question. What if they contacted Sioux City to see if they have an opening because they're in Sioux Falls and they want to book a concert? What if they contacted us instead of them because they want to make a little bit more money on the process?
That happens all the time. And
Spectra was
they work
selected,
with
they would be us, so we would refer them to Spectra.
We would refer them to
Yes.
Spectra.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And how does that work as far as if we refer something to them? Do we get a little something back for that?
Well, keep in mind, they manage the facility, so if the concert let's say comes from Sioux Falls to here and sells tickets and makes money, we make all the money, not Spectra. They pass the money, any money made onto us.
Okay. So we just pay them a fee
To
per
manage the
year
building,
to
yes.
manage the whole thing and book as many concerts as they can,
As we let them.
as we let them.
Yes.
Okay. Is there going to be any limit to how many we'll let them? We can do an afternoon show and an evening show or something? Is that what you're indicating?
Well, they'll present shows, big shows to the city, and we'll determine, and they'll tell what the risk is, and we'll determine whether the city is willing to assume that risk.
Okay.
But not likely to happen, but Garth Brooks is an example. If they came to us and said, Garth Brooks wants to do 5 shows in 3 days in Sioux City, here's the risk, are you willing to do it? It's selling out everywhere else. We would likely take that risk. But,
You're talking as far as insurance premiums that have to be
No.
paid to insure the venue and stuff. Is that what you're talking
The
about?
ability to make or lose money.
I'm sorry?
The ability to make or lose money.
Oh, okay.
That's the risk I'm referring to.
Oh, I see. Okay. So then let's see here. Another question that I had was what's the fee that we're paying them, that we'd be paying them per year then? I understand that it's negotiated, it's going to be negotiated, but
Their proposal is an annual fee of $110,000.
$110,000 for them to manage the booking of concerts for us.
Booking of concerts and overall day-to-day management and operation of the facility.
$110,000 a year.
Yes.
What are we currently paying?
We currently don't have a management fee. The way
Don't have a management fee,
No.
but do you have someone managing that for the city?
Yes, and they would too. We would continue to pay the costs of employees under both scenarios. This is a $110,000 management fee that's paid to the corporate structure for the things that aren't in our building that we would be able to take advantage of. Corporate marketing, corporate group sales, corporate consulting, the people you have here, sponsorship marketing.
Okay, that's all taken care of for $110,000. I'm sorry, part of your management fee. Okay. Are there other costs that I'm not familiar with? Because I didn't read an article in the paper about this at all. Did I miss something?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, what was it? Was there an article in the paper about it all laying this out? I must not have got the journal that day. When was that in the paper?
Be in the journal. The journal's sitting right there. It was a front
Saturday?
page. It was front page.
Okay. I read some of it, the paper. If this was all there, it's that's good that it was there, and that needs to be reiterated then to the public, because this sounds like, something that is a win-win situation for the city. And if I can just interject one other thing that I spoke about earlier, this is on a totally different topic, but, I was thinking after I sat down that, if we were gonna have something to draw people downtown more, like an ice skating rink or a splash pad, maybe that could be one facility. And maybe there'd be a way that the plumbing can work out where you have as a splash pad during the summer and you turn it into an ice skating rink in the winter, and you make all the lines proper with properly insulated and stuff and put the right chemicals in them in the winter time. And then if you need to fill it more, you use a fire truck or something. So anyway, thank you very much. I'm going to read the paper more thoroughly, and I'm going to pay more attention to these council meetings because I think they're exciting, and I'm all for Sioux City, and thanks very much.
All right.
I'm going to tell you one more thing. Tomorrow, look at the Journal, the front page. I'm sure it's going to be there.
Again.
Get a paper.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, then you're going to discourage this. Thank
No.
you. That's what you want? Okay.
No.
Anyone else?
I think, Erica, you don't have to come up to the podium, but I did want to cover some of the pluses and minuses of our operation. And just publicly tell you, I think you are doing a great job, and I think you do have a great team. And Chris DeHardy's comments, I take those seriously, and we need to address that in any contract if that's the way we vote going forward. And I can understand too that the employees deserve and just need to have an answer, just, up or down. What are we doing? How are we going to move forward? And you have a difficult job because you've got the EFAB board, you've got the city council, you've got city manager, and it's not an easy job. And I don't know if we acknowledge that enough. I'm sorry it's under these circumstances that it takes somebody to come into Sioux City and raise some good points with us, very good points, by the way, that were raised to acknowledge that. So for this council member, I apologize for not thanking you more publicly. But what I want to say, we've talked about the department deficit, and there is, Pete, I think there is I appreciate your average, and I think it's important to know that, but there are highs and there are lows. You've had good years and not so good years, and we all have. I try to not be the Monday quarterback by any means, because football, watch out, but I try not to second guess the events and the shows that are brought to Sioux City. But I'll tell you what, we've hit some home runs with the shows we've had. And so sometimes that deficit just can't, it's just out of control. And that might be something Spectra will say too. They might just say there's so much you can manage. So I just want to acknowledge that. I also want to acknowledge that we as a city would continue to carry the financial responsibility for the operations and the capital improvements. And I think that's important to note, that the taxpayers know that that's what it is. As much magic as Spectra might be able to do, or as much as you might be able to accomplish, we still have issues to address, and we need to look at those. And you've worked hard to bring those to the attention of council. And then the other thing, and I think this came up with the EFAB board report that the president wrote us, and I very much appreciated his very lengthy input on what but I think we all acknowledge in some way, and I'm going to accept some of the blame for this, we have a cloudy organizational structure. There shouldn't be that disconnect that we seem to have had in the past. And I think council needs to take some responsibility for it. I think the city manager needs to take responsibility for it. I think EFAB does. I think we're all in this together. And I truly believe that want to be divided going forward. Your advantages, you improve corporate sponsorship. You had that on your list that we as a city could do that. Lower costs through reorganization. You've talked about reorganization. So there's going to be some change regardless of what we do, but that's an advantage. You have a good reputation with promoters countrywide. You've improved group sales. You have dedicated employees. We've talked about that plenty. And you yourself are dedicated and loyal to the city of Sioux City and its operations. We would have avoidance of a management fee. That's an advantage. We'd have local control over the facilities. I know there's always concern about what are we giving up, and are we giving up too much, and what's the impact to the taxpayers on that? And then improvements to the consumer experience. Just for the record, gentlemen, Erica has worked tirelessly to improve that consumer experience that we have at Tyson. And Orpheum has done remarkable. Again, this city has been built by volunteers. And we've had a number of volunteers that have made the Orpheum Theater successful, and a number of volunteers that have made Tyson Event Center the success that it is today. So it's no reflection on us as a city. It's no reflection on what you're proposing, Spectra. I'm talking to you about any reluctance that we might have, or any just questions that we might have, because it is change. And it's going to be, can we as a community embrace that change and all pull together? Because if we cannot have that loyalty and dedication continue, we will not succeed, no matter who comes in. You could be the best in the world, and if we don't have that cooperation, that loyalty and dedication, we just won't. We won't succeed, Erica. And I see it as we need you and we need your team. And I'm pleased that Spectra can say we can make that work. And I'm going to throw in, and you're going to get sick of me saying this, but long term, we can make that work. I don't want anything to change in that regard. So I didn't know if you had any comments, because after all, Spectra had made some of their good points. I didn't know if you wanted to say anything to council while you have the opportunity to do that as a group, or just where you are. And I just offer that, and if you don't, that's fine. And if you do, that would be great.
Erica Newton with the Events and Facilities Department. My primary concern is what's best from Sioux City. I am from Sioux City, and so obviously I want to see this area improve, offer more to the taxpayers, offer people things to do, keep younger people here in the community. Those are all things that are very important to me. I want to do what's best for the facilities themselves, because again, you have taxpayer dollars going into the construction of the Tyson Event Center. I want to make sure that it still feels accessible to taxpayers and to people of this community that helped pay for it. And then my third primary concern is with employees. We have a really good staff that's been very loyal and dedicated to what we do at the Tyson Event Center, and it's very specialized, as one of you brought up before. These people have a lot of history in an industry that's pretty specialized. So these are people that know what they're doing. They've been with us for a long time, and I think they would for sure be something that we need to look at in terms of how any sort of negotiation shakes out. I did want to mention too, because I've heard this a lot, we are a member of Venue Coalition, which is a coalition of about 100 venues nationwide and in Canada. We pay, I think, $12,500 a year for membership in that coalition, and we do a lot of the same things that Spectra has mentioned in terms of routing amongst all of our facilities. This is a coalition of independent venues, so there are no privately managed venues that are part of it, but the IEBA conference that was mentioned earlier in Nashville will be doing the same thing with Venue Coalitions and talk about routing opportunities with them. So I just want to make sure that that's understood, that a lot of that is happening right now. Other than that, I mean, I think the council has heard plenty from us, from Spectra, from citizens that you've all spoken to, and I think it is a tough decision. We have ways in our proposal that we have put together to reduce that subsidy. I would also say that I think that our subsidy has been astronomical, but I do agree that if there is opportunity to change the direction of what's happening, that we should definitely take that opportunity. But I think, it's a difficult decision for council. I've heard it said time and time again that employees are a major concern, and so I think that that's something that should be weighed heavily.
I appreciate your candidness, Erica, and I appreciate the council. Like I said, we make decisions up here all the time when we don't always agree. Thank goodness the community should be thankful that the council members don't always agree 5-0. But we try to make the best decision we can for the greater good of the community as well, and have their interests at heart. And I think we're really a good council for moving on after the vote's taken and pulling together. I voted against some things in the past that the majority ruled otherwise, and I went out and I was the cheerleader for that project and did the best I could to make it successful.
And I think for our department, that is extremely important. Whichever way we go in terms of management, this department needs 100% support from council, from the city, and from the community. So whatever decision is made, we as a staff need to feel like people are behind us and that people are pulling for us, and that we're all trying to work together to make these partnerships click, whatever the partnership or management model might be. So that's really important to us, that one way or the other, we have really the full support from the city, and aren't just a department that's kind of floating around out there that no one's really paying attention to.
Exactly, and I think with some of the public discussion we've had and the ways, the process that EFAB board talked about, I think with some of that, it was questionable. I'm sure you were thinking, hey, wait a minute, we're doing a great job here, and it's not being acknowledged. So you're exactly right in that regard.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Erica.
Thanks, Erica.
I did have one further question for Spectra, if I may, and I'll be brief, that Erica made me think of it. How does the, in your operations, how does an EFAB board fit into the mix of things? How will you use our
I mean, that's up to the city. If there's instances where we report directly to them. And sometimes there's a reporting to a contract administrator that's assigned by the client. But typically, there's one person that's responsible that we report to, and then that person disseminates information out. There absolutely could be reporting where we give monthly reports or whatever. So it depends on the city what they want.
Councilmember Moore, under the current ordinance, how the Events Facilities Board, it is an advisory board, so a contract manager, the city's contract manager would be myself or somebody I designate to that. But the intent is they would still provide information to the advisory board and seek out advice from the advisory board.
And we have a couple of buildings. We mentioned Nampa. Nampa has a very similar board. So we have other boards that we can recommend how we do it or whatever, but we certainly take the lead from the city.
In my reference checks, Cumberland County, South Carolina, I think is also very similar.
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, I'll take the lead on this from the standpoint that there's been a lot of good discussion today, and there have been a lot of good questions asked and answered, and I think this council member would appreciate having another week and make the decision a week from today, unless that gives any of you heartburn. But what I want to hear from the community this week, whether it's by emails or phone calls, is that we will, in fact, if the council goes this way, and I'm not presuming it will, but the way the discussion went today, it seems like it's positive, but I want to make sure we are going to pull together as a community on this. And I'm just putting my cards on the table. I mean, if there's some key players that are saying, I'm not going to participate, I'm not going to support this, I want to hear that. I want to know that. It seems like sometimes on a major decision that we have to make, as we do today, it's a catch-22 for me. Sometimes it's good to make the decision and let's get on with it. Either you vote it up or vote it down, or you wait the week. The Sioux City Journal has a great, and we still have citizens that, they'll read this tomorrow, they'll hear it on the news tonight, and they're going to want to discuss it. And they might have something that they didn't get answered. And I know I can't please everybody. I mean, I've given that up a long time ago. But I can try to answer questions that might come up. And it's just a week of reflection. It's a week of, is this going in the right direction? And that's where I am. So I would hope I could get some support to defer it for a week. If I don't, I'll respect your decision that you want it voted up or voted down today.
Well, I'll throw something out there. I myself would like to get this over with and vote. I don't think it's fair to the employees. I don't think it's fair to the people out there. We have been in the discussions for a long, long time, and we've had people come and talk to us, and we've had the opportunity to see what has to be said from the community. Like I said, the Journal had a front page article on Saturday, and it's also been in the paper since before that too. So this is not like it hasn't been discussed. And to let it go for another few days, I don't think it's fair to our people. And I think that we need to get on with it. I'm all about making that decision now. I think I've been quite clear. But I'll go with whatever my boys want to do, I'm fine with, but that's how I feel, so.
You heard that right.
Well, from the perspective of the RCA, and the request is to authorize the city manager to negotiate, I don't think there will be a slowdown in the process. Certainly a week won't slow it down. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's something that could be ongoing while we take the week, at your request. I would support honoring your request because all along, I know this council has heard me say a number of times, one of my greatest frustrations in being here sometimes is being a member of the city council is the fact that we can't get the public to weigh in. So David, I'm glad you showed up because you offered a lot of information tonight.
Okay.
And you had, no, wait a minute. No, let me finish.
Okay.
And a lot of questions. And I think that's the kind of thing we really need. I think far too often, the general public doesn't engage us. They don't ask questions. And I think some think that we're not accessible. But I think this group is far more accessible than a lot of them that I dealt with for a long time when I worked across the street. But I think that if that week will provide an opportunity for the general public to weigh in, I received a number of calls this morning. I've had conversations for the last week with a lot of people. I'm certainly willing to take the week and allow that to happen. And would encourage the general public to share their thoughts. And in the meantime, it'll probably help me gather just a little bit more information. I left a message for Erica last week, never heard back, to talk about some of the questions I had. Maybe we can figure out a time to get together and get that done, and it'll give me a higher comfort level too. But I do think it's important for people to weigh in. I do think it's important for the council to listen. I said this not long ago too. Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak, but courage is what it also takes to sit down and listen. So I want to be a good listener. I want people to know that the council are good listeners, and I honestly believe they are. And 1 week won't slow the process down for me.
We have a motion for that.
May I say one thing?
As long as you keep it under 3 minutes, because I'm going to start.
I had a chance to ask one of these gentlemen here about what other entertainment there is besides concerts, if they have any. His answer was yes. So that was one of the questions I was going to ask earlier, because I think it's important that we not just have some business that's only going to do concerts when, I guess a comedian could be considered a concert. The other thing I was going to say is, if we're waiting to negotiate, the proposal that you're going to vote on is to negotiate. This sounds like Congress to me. I can't understand, if you've already talked about a lot of stuff, why you can't. I mean, when you say negotiate, are you talking about negotiating the final agreements of whether you're going to
Okay. So, I mean, I'm sorry, but it wasn't clear.
No,
It
I'm
wasn't
not-
clear to
I'm
me
just
when you
saying
say you're
we-
gonna negotiate about, well, we're gonna talk about if we're gonna do it, what the terms are gonna be.
Let me
Negotiate the
finish.
contract.
Alls we're
I'm
doing-
sorry?
Negotiate the contract.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry, but,
No,
you
no,
know,
I wanted
I'm
to
just a
explain- I
stickler
wanted
for
to explain
details,
to
and
her.
I didn't have
wasn't
enough details.
Can you let me finish now? I
I'm sorry,
wanted to
yes.
explain to
Well,
you.
no, not if this doesn't
This is
pass.
just an outline of a draft, and the actual contract will be pages and pages long. This is like a quarter of a page of a memo is all.
Okay.
That's what I
I'm
wanted to-
sorry, I thought you were just talking about kind of negotiating, a little back and forth business or something. Okay,
All
thank you.
right, thank you.
Oh, it's been a lot.
No, and I guess, yeah, I would just say that I don't know, I understand and I respect the desire for employees to understand kind of what direction we are going and what the future might look like. I understand and I respect that, and so that's challenging, because I wouldn't want to be in that position either. But I do understand also the desire to seek more public input. Even though the thing that is troublesome with me is sometimes there's misinformation or misunderstanding, and that's where I have challenges. You know what I mean? Trust me, I'm in the social media era, so I see people's comments and what they're saying, and a lot of times it's due to a lack of education rather than an opportunity to speak. But no, if Councilmember Moore thinks that would be beneficial to hear more of a dialogue, or perhaps more people would like to come and speak, then I can respect those wishes. Yeah.
I'll take that as a motion, somebody. Let's move it and.
I'll move to defer the item 1 week.
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Scott.
I'm going to abstain, and the city attorney needs to, I need to explain, she said, why I'm abstaining. I'm a tenant of the building, and therefore I've not taken part of the discussion, and I'm going to continue to not. So although you're all seeking input, seeking to give me input will not help in that process, and that way I'll save myself a lot of emails and phone calls as well. But, and I don't, it's not that I don't want the public input, but it won't do me any good is my point.
Waters.
Aye.
Okay, then we will move on to 20 is a motion authorizing staff to move forward with preliminary plans to eliminate the bridge structure from the Bluff Road Bridge project. I'll move that.
Second.
Anyone to be heard on that one? I would hope that we would somehow develop a gate system for that bike trail, because I know what you're talking about. It opens to the track so they can't go down the track. And
Well, actually, I'll let Brittany talk to you. She had a conversation with UP, so.
and what they had to say.
UP has been supportive of the at-grade crossing, so we would look to put in some sort of improvements, whether it be a gate and an altered alignment for the trail, just to alert pedestrians that there is a
They're
train
not
there.
supportive.
No, they are supportive
Okay.
of the at-grade crossing.
Good.
We also had the discussion, if we were to move the street further to the north, the crossing there, they would consider that a new crossing. So then we would be upgrading with full signals and gate arms, and that would be at the city's cost. If we stay at the current alignment, we wouldn't be responsible for upgrading their signals. We would just be responsible for the additional trail crossing.
Okay, good. Are we voting or calling the roll? Okay.
And this is to create the road project, right, that we talked about? Correct.
Now, one more question. We always get so much bridge money from the state or feds or whatever.
You can use the bridge money to eliminate the bridge. So we would use federal.
Not what I was gonna ask you, though.
Okay.
The reason I wouldn't ask you that is because you could keep that bridge and get another one next year, is my point. If you then we could do 2 bridges next year. You see what I'm saying? If you give up the bridge money, you always have a list of bridges that you go down the list. So you got 2 bridges ready, probably.
Oh, we have multiple bridges.
Right.
Every year, you're only allowed to get awarded one, so if we were to not move forward this year, then Bluff would be on the list next year, and then if another bridge was
So that makes
prioritized on the
absolutely zero
list.
sense. Why wouldn't we be able to move a bridge up if we say we want to pay for this ourselves?
I think that's not what they're saying. They're saying they're using this bridge money.
I know what they're saying. I get that. I don't want them to use this because you can use TIF money to do the street and still get another bridge. We have a.
If we don't do a bridge this year, that we don't get credit to carry over to keep another, so we could do two bridges next year.
What's the next bridge on your list after Bluff? That's what I'm asking.
Oh,
Well, or
I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. To that point, one thing that I've been thinking a lot about when we do improvements and trail and stuff like that is the trail just passed, and I've talked to Matt about this, past Home Depot. He's saying use the bridge money to redo like that bridge, because the one just passed by House and Cabinets or whatever the heck it's called, that's a horrible bridge. And anyone riding a bicycle or let alone a wheelchair trying to cross it is pretty treacherous. So use that bridge money to fix that bridge and use TIF money to build the road.
It would have to be, we'd have to call the state and we can find out if we turn down Bluff Street, what bridge would they offer us? But it may not be that bridge you're talking about.
Right, but it's still worth pursuing is all
Yep.
I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying
Yep,
now?
I see exactly what you're saying.
You only get so much of that money and we can always find money, well, we can't always, but Bob will tell me we can.
The only trick to that is we'll have to get that bridge that they replace it and built before we take down Bluff Street. That was kind of the thing we ran into when we did Outer Drive. We used.
Well, I'm just saying, look into it, that's all.
Yep, we
I'm
can
not
do that.
saying it's the right answer.
Yep, we can look into that. We'll get you an email or something to everybody.
Okay.
Brecken?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Waters?
Aye.
Capron?
Aye.
21 is a resolution in support of funding of the National Natural Resources and Outdoor Recreation Trust Fund. I'll move that.
Second. I actually wanted to, Graham McGaffin can speak a little bit about this resolution if the mayor wouldn't mind entertaining that. Keep it brief, but yeah, come on up, Graham. Keep it brief, I know.
This is the longest we've gone in a long time. I'm not used to this.
All right.
Thank you, council. A fraction of the 3 minutes. Graham McGaffin, 4501 Manor Circle, the Luz Hills Project Director for the Nature Conservancy in Iowa. Here today to just applaud you for taking this up. The Natural Resources and Outdoor Recreation Trust Fund will provide the resources necessary to address Iowa's water quality problems through sufficient funding of practices called out in Iowa's nutrient reduction strategy. Additionally, the trust fund will also provide additional resources for quality of life amenities, many of which have been talked about today and often around our communities, such as trails and as well as outdoor recreation opportunities, hunting, land protection, et cetera. Yeah, that's it. I appreciate the council's attention to this and look forward to the 2018 legislative session where the Iowa legislature will again revisit this. So thank you.
You need to tell the state legislators that with the computers and cash registers today, they can actually pass a 3/8 of a cent sales tax. It doesn't have to be a full penny if they really want to do this. That's the argument, is that we have to wait till we do a penny sales tax. Well, with computers, it really doesn't matter. You can have, lots of states have 1/2 cent taxes and things like that, so. I know they won't listen to you anymore than they do me, but I thought I'd share that.
Mr. Mayor, I appreciate yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Good seeing you.
Thank your friend John Cruz from Storm Lake.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Moore?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Waters?
Aye.
Capron?
Aye.
Brecken?
Aye. 22 is a motion authorizing staff to move forward with the design of the parking facility associated with the Convention Center renovation hotel project.
Like Dan Smith and John Holtke from City's Edge, which is now Rainmaker. So they will be giving you a presentation on the alternates.
Yeah, are you up there? Okay. Yeah, as Dave said, I'm Dan Smith. I'm with Raymaker and City's Edge, and the reason I bring that up is you've been hearing the name City's Edge with Kinseth Hospitality, for years on this project, and City's Edge has been a wholly owned subsidiary of Raymaker for more than 10 years, and we're just phasing out the name right now. I just wanted to explain that because my drawings all say Raymaker on them instead of City's Edge. Some of you might recognize me. I served under the council on the library board a few years ago when Mayor Scott and a different council
A long time ago.
He's still here.
Yeah.
No, I came back just like you are.
But I was at FEH Architects and worked on Dan Moore's office with Maureen at the time. When
That
you
was a big
remodeled your
fee, I'll
office.
bet, huh?
Yeah. But I'm here with Jonathan Holtke, he's the structural engineer on these three projects. And I know you want to see the parking deck, and I'm going to talk about the convention center a little first and show you what we're doing at the convention center. And at this is the site showing the whole 2 blocks where the convention center is. To the east is the surface parking right now, and to the north of that is surface parking that you enter off of Virginia Street, and it slopes down and then empties onto the alley right now. You can go to the next. And we are putting the Courtyard by Marriott, Kenseth Hospitality companies are developing this hotel. And you can see to the west of that, between that and the convention center, that brown area that's wrapping around the convention center is a new addition to the convention center that is a pre-function space for the ballroom we're going to do within the main convention space. And there's a lobby and some bathrooms and storage that we'll see a plan in a little minute. I'll show you more of that. The Courtyard by Marriott is a 150-room hotel. The parking deck is going to be designed for 140 cars. And you can see in this plan that there's parking between the hotel and the parking deck. That's where all the accessible parking is, and some other parking that is for the hotel. And in the front, you can see there's a porte cochere going over an entry drive. And with this project, all the site work that's being done with the hotel, it's not real clear in our drawings. The circle element that's there in front of the promenade on 4th Street is being eliminated. And you see that eliminated from our side of the street, but part of this project will also be straightening out the curb there along the promenade.
After we just fixed it?
Pardon me?
No, they won't touch the green space. They're talking the center circle that's there right now.
What?
Yeah.
He said after we just fixed it.
I'm sorry.
After we just fixed it.
Yeah.
Not the island. You're
Go ahead.
You're fine. Or it is the island, not the other part of it.
Okay.
Could you back up a minute? What did you call that
Excessive.
from the parking on the side, the crossover there? Yeah, right where the lines are?
That's
What's
the
that
accessible
crosswalk?
parking.
No, but what's the crosswalk thing? You had a word for it, or did you call it a term?
No, he was
Dan, they're actually
about
talking about the entryway on the front side.
Oh, this was a
the
portico.
circle and the cover above it.
Yeah, this is a portico.
No, what did he call that? You remember? Right there, yeah.
Looks like a sidewalk to me.
No, he was
It's
saying
actually
that, but he
just
was meaning this right here, the other side. That's just a crosswalk.
Yeah, that's just a crosswalk. That's how people get.
An open crosswalk. Just-
Yes.
Okay, you see the area behind the hotel that's kind of light brown. Courtyard hotels have a outdoor seating area, and the current generation of the Courtyard hotels have a fire pit out there, seating for the hotel guests, and that area behind the hotel will be for the hotel guests. But there's another area off of the pre-function space that will relate to the ballroom use and the pre-function use, and has a similar seating and another fire pit out there, and has sort of a little low wall between it and the sidewalk there. There is access also from the lobby and the main entrance there into this space. Now we can go to the existing floor plan. The existing plan, you all know the big space in the convention center has Gallery A, Gallery B, and Gallery C, and they're divided by operable partitions. You can go. In our new plan, we do another operable partition to the east of the one that's currently between Gallery B and Gallery C that creates a corridor to serve the ballroom. The ballroom is divisible into 3 different spaces, or it can be used as the one large space, but that new operable partition all the way across the space creates that corridor where you can come back, bring things from the kitchen and come back through there and service those 3 rooms. Because if you look over on the east side of those, there's new openings in the east wall of the convention center from this pre-function space where there's bump outs you see on the wall there where Jonathan wants columns for some reason, but we've got arched openings that sort of frame those entrances into Ballroom North, Ballroom Central, and Ballroom South. To the south of all of that is a new lobby and a new entrance from 4th Street. And the current south corridor of the convention center is extended over to that lobby. And now on the south side of the building, south of the corridor, we've added new bathrooms and storage space. You may have noticed that out in the parking lot right now, there's a couple of big storage trailers. They've got those filled with stuff and they needed more storage space. And so that's why we have it on the south side of the building there. This plan is really the same plan we worked on last winter with Kinseth Hospitality and Marty Doherty, Renee Billings, and Erica Newton were all involved in our planning at the time and looking at this plan. And it's still pretty much the same. I want to explain there, if you look at that new long operable partition we have at either end, there's a round dot right now, and those are new columns that will be put inside the space. And 8-foot deep truss girder will span all the way across those in order to carry this new partition and the beams that go across to the east wall that carry those other 3 partitions. You can go on.
But it'll all be able to fold up into one big room yet?
Go back a second. It does all open up so that when you have the ladies' night out or the chamber dinner, it's still all open in there. I will point out that though that the new area is going to have a lower ceiling. The current operable partitions are 24 feet high, and these new operable partitions we're putting in will just be 16 feet high. And that's part of Kinseth Hospitality very much believed that was part of the working model for a ballroom, that you don't want too cavernous a space, too high a ceiling, that a more intimate space works better. And I know a couple of the council members went down with Marty and Renee to the facility that the Kinseths did in. This ballroom space will be quite similar to that in scale.
You must miss that trip.
It was beautiful.
No. Did you go? Did you go?
No, I did not.
None of you did? I was told a couple of council members met.
on crutches
It
at
was
the
2
time.
years
Might have been the
ago.
county. Just
Well,
You
I
can continue.
Here are the exterior elevations where we're wrapping around. You're seeing, well, that upper view shows the hotel as well as the whole convention center and our new entrance. And the middle view is looking from the south. You can see all of and in these 2 lower views, the new parts are in color and the existing convention center is all in black and white there. The brick on the convention center addition is all going to match the brick that's there. Sioux City Brick still makes that same brick at their Ida plant. We'll do the same utility brick on a 1/3 running bond, and the 4-foot tall frieze that wraps around with the soldier courses. We'll be doing that so that all this will fit in with the existing convention center.
You know what a soldier course is? Tell Councilman Moore what a soldier course is, so he knows.
Take the brick and stand it upright.
Stand at attention.
Oh, that's why, okay. Thank you, Mayor.
I just wanted you to know that. He hasn't worked much construction like the rest of us have. Live kind of a charmed life.
So here we are back to the existing site.
Nothing.
I'm sorry if I can't hear everything. My hearing's very bad.
You're fine. I'm just making fun of Councilman Moore, so you're good.
Again.
All right. This is the existing site. You can go to the next one. This is one of the drawings that was from like a year ago. And this was the type of plan that Kinseth Hospitality was showing the city. And it might be a little difficult to see, but the parking deck is 2 levels, and the entrance to the lower level there were 2 entrances right behind the hotel. And when that was done as a conceptual design, we didn't have a lot of information. We didn't have a survey at the time yet. DGR is now on as the civil on this job and did a nice survey for us. When we started getting into the design of this thing, we were going to have to excavate out like 30 feet down right at the edge of 5th Street and do shoring to hold all that back. That's how deep that would have to be. Virginia's sloping down that much. And that's a lot of dirt to hold back. It costs a lot of money. It's a lot of excavation. And we started, and it was not going to fit within the budget. And so we started looking at different options. And the real option is to raise the building more out of the ground. And so the first option we came up with I'm calling design option 1. It no longer has the entrances on the south side, but it has 2 entrances off of Virginia. At Virginia, just off of 5th, you enter the upper level of the parking deck, and further down Virginia, you go into the lower level. And yeah, Virginia is sloping that much that we can't do that there. You can go to the next. And so in this scheme 1, the lower level you see on the left, you enter at that lower part, and then it's 2-way parking all the way around there. And on the upper level, you enter off of Virginia, just south of 5th, and this is also 2-way parking all the way around in there. And this scheme is showing the 140 spaces that we're supposed to have in the parking deck. But as we thought about this, the whole thing was we had raised it up, and we're excavating less and doing less shoring to hold back the earth. And we saw a lot of savings in doing that. And so we started to think, well, what if we raise it more? And you can go 2 slides forward actually now. We'll go another, and then this is, I was getting a little ahead of myself, because here's like a 3D view of design option 1, what that would look like. It's a little dark under the shadow where you go in at the lower entrance there. And then you can see between the parking deck and the hotel that what's at the north side of the existing surface lot right now. Now I'll go back to my discussion. I started talking about how we could raise the building more, because we thought then there'd be even less excavation and less shoring. And so we came to the idea of, right now there's the existing parking there that you turn in off of Virginia, and it slopes down, comes down to the alley. And our idea in option 2 is to leave the existing parking there and to just build a roof over it that you would drive up onto. You would have to turn off of 5th to do this. And so that upper level, which is on the right, you'd turn in off of Fifth, you'd go up, and this whole thing would be a platform in the air over what's there now. So we don't need to rebuild anything for the first floor. We don't have to tear apart what you did. We will be making some holes in the concrete for the columns for the upper structure and patching that. But the city just spent a lot of money building that surface parking just a few years ago. And we think we can do this project considerably more economically if we leave that there and just do this upper level over it. We do realize that entering off of Fifth is not as ideal as the other choices, but it saves on the cost considerably. And now here's the 3D view showing that because it is sloping up and then it's flat from Fifth, and the parking underneath is sloping down as it goes from the upper part to the lower part, and that you end up with quite a tall space in there. And so the savings that we get from not doing as much excavation and doing less shoring, we also with this, in the building codes, there's enclosed parking garages and open parking garages. And the other scheme is considered closed. This is considered open. And by the building codes, we'll have less ventilation requirements and less sprinkler requirements with this option too. And that's why we think this is a good option. Currently, the plans are rather schematic, but we've done some cost estimates. And right now I'm over on what I'm supposed to be doing for the convention center. And, but this scheme is under budget on the parking, about the same amount. Both of the plans need further work and more refinement. But we think that if we go with option 2, we can do the whole project on budget.
Well, no, wait a minute, because I don't think that's the way it works. One belongs to the parking fund. Well, I'm sure you're gonna tell me it is.
No,
but-
none of it's funded through parking funds.
Okay, how's it funded?
It's funded through tax reinvestment funds. Don is still here, I believe, in some TIF.
So we can run over on one and then they can take that money and put it in another deal. That doesn't.
Well, yeah, because it's all one project.
No, you did not. You broke it out. 2.1 million for one and 5 point something. It was two completely different projects. And if I remember right, we were bidding the parking ramp separate as a city project.
That's correct.
But I'm saying as presented to Iowa the tax reinvestment, it's all part of one large project.
I don't
We're just
disagree with
bidding it
that, but
separate
as
from
how
bidding
we
rules.
did our development.
Both structures have to be bid out separately because they have public funding in them. The convention center space will have to be a publicly let project, and so will the garage.
Okay, I'm done arguing about this project. Just shut up, Bob. Let's move ahead. Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
just want to make something clear too, that we're not reusing the concrete that's on the parking deck like we discussed this morning, right?
Well, some of the concrete may be reused. The base underneath the concrete is a all compacted base that you put the concrete on, and we will be able to save a good deal of the concrete, I think.
Okay.
So the two-tiered with the grass in the middle is just gonna stay the way it is with that option. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, it won't stay. It'll look a little bit different.
So if you maybe go back several slides and straighten that out to account for that grade difference, and we need to get off. So because of the grade, because of the elevation of the hotel, we actually come in off the drive behind the hotel, and this drops quite a bit to get to this elevation. So we're bringing this
'Cause there's
same
a wall there,
elevation, and at about this point of the existing drive, it pretty well goes flat straight out to the Virginia Avenue.
And with that option, it's gonna be one entrance, one exit, correct? Yeah.
Yes.
And right now, it's
Looking at
either,
turning
right
it
now,
into-
it's either way.
Right now we're proposing turning it into a one-way.
One way in, one way out.
Correct.
What that does is that helps eliminate any of the traffic that may be closer to that 5th and Virginia intersection.
Would that be the exit?
No, that would be the entrance.
Entrance up top. Okay, we can continue.
Go to the last slide. This was a view that you might have seen last winter. And we had a barrel vaulted entrance similar to the other two existing ones at the southwest corner. And that ended up not being able to fit in the budget. It's cheaper to build things rectilinear. And that's why our entrance now is somewhat different than this. It was in order to bring the project in on budget.
Where did they get their preliminary numbers?
Pardon me?
Where did you get your preliminary numbers?
Where did they get the preliminary?
The first numbers, the preliminary numbers that we have right now, we developed in-house.
No, I'm talking about when they came.
Yes.
But for the project.
We did last year, Dicon is a Omaha construction manager that built the Bellevue, Nebraska facility I spoke of earlier. They'll be the construction manager on this hotel project. And we had them do an estimate on the hotel and the parking deck and the convention center addition last winter. And it was quite higher than what you want to spend on the convention center. And I started scaling it back at that time, making it more rectilinear and making the pre-function space narrower and some of the walls shorter to reduce some of those costs.
One other area we didn't mention that was brought up in the more recent times discussing this, that also helped us to want to bring this parking deck out of the ground. There is an electric utility that we're relocating here, and Mid-American's okay with that. But there's also an electric conduit underground underneath the sidewalk that we're really trying to protect. And the deeper we go, the more risk we have of what we call undermining it or damaging that line. So when we pull it out, we leave basically the grade as it is today. We really eliminate that risk and that extra cost associated.
Can you go back to your other drawing that shows the layout? I want to ask you about where the delivery trucks and all of that comes in. Seems
Right
really,
there.
yeah, it seems really tight. Where the delivery trucks come in and the semis and everything that's used at the convention center? Where does the truck traffic go?
So we still do have the truck traffic come down the drive behind the hotel.
Trucks back up down that whole space. I think that's come up in council discussions before. There is back there at the back, there are two truck dock doors at the far northeast corner, and then the big door into the convention center is right where he's pointing the arrow right now. That door, which is brand new, is still gonna be there. We need it to bring in these giant trusses, but.
How many feet is it from where it says Virginia Street to where you got your arrow?
Over to there.
And there's a grade change, there's a dramatic grade change. Because you're moving that driveway way to the north, so that's not flat there anymore.
This is not flat, this portion.
No, that's a real grade.
Right. It comes down some there, and then it
flat.
comes back. It's about 250 feet back to there.
And how wide is it?
That's more than 20 feet wide.
This is probably the 24 through here, and then.
It's a ways for a big truck to back up.
And he's only got one way. He's got to come all the way around Fifth Street the way you've got that designed. He's got to come back and back into traffic uphill.
If a big truck is unloading for a show or something, Yes.
The train
It's-
wreck.
It's, you
It's
can
a train
back
wreck.
in.
It's a train wreck. You can say whatever, but he's got to come, he's going to be backing against traffic. Because people are going to be coming down that hill. And he's going to have to try to back up because he can't come this way because of that grade. So he's going to have to pull down, then back up. So you're asking a guy with a 53-foot truck to make that back in there. You guys ever driven one?
No, I haven't. I know that on Hamilton at the Hy-Vee, the trucks back up a fair amount there. It is not, like you
They
said,
got
it's
a
not in
turnaround. When
traffic.
that truck comes into Hy-Vee, he comes in the first driveway, he goes up, he goes out, and then he backs up. That's a lot easier than backing the way you've got.
That's correct.
Would you gain anything by not having the back outdoor space?
Well, then,
you wouldn't really gain any turnaround spot. And I guess the reason I'm saying that is because I'm thinking, okay, so I go to this hotel, why am I going to want to go see the parking deck and chill back there with the fire? I'm going to go out front. And so I'm just saying, I wonder if you would gain anything by not having the back space.
The grade's gonna be dramatically different. Right?
Well, this will be mostly flat back. I mean, this will be.
Right, but where the driveway is, you're high.
Here.
Yeah. You're 6 or 8 feet above where that fire pit is, at least.
Right.
That's why you can't do it. You guys must have a wall there or something to hold that dirt.
There's an existing retaining wall along here, and then this is just a steep grass.
No, I know that, but I'm talking back here where, on Virginia Street, that grade is not the same driveway as there today.
No, and that's part of why
Move
it
north.
empties lower into Virginia, was to help with the problem that you're talking about the hill there. It was actually DGR changed it to where it comes down further that way, because that seemed like it was going to create less slope at the beginning of that drive.
I'm not a construction expert at all. I'm never going to pretend to be. But what if you took the proposed hotel and you moved the whole thing 10 feet to the south? Because you'd have your little, you'd have that, well, and whatever, just bring that to the sidewalk.
It's at the edge of Kinsett's property right now. We already moved it to the south and changed the property line, actually, for this project. We did go 10 feet to the south. It seemed there was a problem with the slopes on the south from the hotel if we brought it any more south.
So you're tapped, is what you're
issues
saying.
Coming out of the walks either way from the hotel, there's.
So you're just saying you're tapped either way, right? You're just saying that you're as far south as possible.
This was considered ideal by the civil engineer, where we are. For the slopes behind the hotel, doing all the drainage back there and the stuff in the front of the hotel, and having it come over and meet 4th Street to drain the water, to be able to have the sidewalks at the right slope to meet codes. Have it right there. So it is 10 feet south of, Alf's, and all the buildings going down 4th Street there are all in a line, the facades of those, and we're actually 10 feet south from there.
You're not taking that Roth fountain out, right?
No, we're not doing anything to the fountain.
Was there parking on the preliminary designs that we saw? Was there parking where the trucks are going to be?
The handicap
Not that many.
There was less because you had 2 entrances going into the lower level of the parking deck.
It was just parking in between the entrances.
Yeah, I thought it was just more wide open than what it's showing to be here.
Yeah, there was, you had 2 entranceways. The preliminary plans had 2 entranceways going in. It's kind of hard to.
There's a little bit of parking. There's an entrance here. There's an entrance here, but we had shown parking here because we did. wasn't quite
Yeah,
figured out the full
that didn't
grade.
really work out. And also the parking you see over there further to the west, behind the hospital's building, there's some real big electric lines in the alley right there that feed that power plant of the hospital. And we make a big mess if we cut into that alley more. And so we did have some parking spaces over there that can't really work without spending a lot more to cut up that alley and move that electrical stuff.
So run through the three options again, just the,
There's only two today.
well, I thought there were three.
The first one was the concept option, which it really isn't feasible anymore. So it's really down to the two options. The first option that's got both access points on Virginia Street, and then the second one that's utilizing basically the current parking lot and building a ramp that comes out of the ground and accessing it on Fifth Street.
What kind of phone you got? Droid or Apple?
Well, I guess I'd go with the first option, with the Virginia Street, is what I would support, based on everything I've told everybody about.
There's about
this.
$1 million cost difference.
Well,
Whoops.
That's what I'm asking, Dave. Who gave us these estimates?
Yeah. And that's what's frustrating is we make decisions based off the info we get.
they're not, yeah, and people aren't gonna get what they were I'm not getting what I expected. I mean, coming around on Fifth Street where it's one way. All along I was telling people we're gonna have a deck. Lower that you go in from the back of the hotel, the upper you go up. You'll walk out to Virginia Street and you'll come down to the theaters.
Well, there's only 140 stalls and 150 rooms. Guess what? There aren't gonna be a lot of people parking there that aren't in the hotel anyway.
There are over 150 stalls when you include the parking behind them.
Yeah, you got 150 rooms. I don't know a lot of people that go to hotels and take 2 rooms, so I think you're probably gonna use them all. Because I bet the manager's not gonna park somewhere else. That's the problem, that we made that decision, or the rest of them did, based upon a number. Now,
Based
that
upon the
number doesn't mean
information given.
anything. And so basically what we're doing is cheapening this parking ramp so that you can put more money in the convention center. Because you already said you're not spending the full 2.1 million on this ramp, right?
Well, I think the initial estimates had 2.8 for the ramp and 2 for the convention center space for a total of 4.8, including design fees. And yes, the idea is to, regardless, we're over on with option 1, but we'd be over on the estimate for the ramp costs.
It's just challenging, Dave, and I know you know that we went out and drove it. You know what I mean? I went out there and saw it firsthand with you. I think it's just tough. At least I'll speak for myself. I'm just frustrated, and I think it's tough that, I agree with Dan of what we talked about and what the concept was of being able to enter both sides from either Virginia or the back was going to be feasible, and then there was going to be adequate space for the truck to be able to get through because that was a big concern. And so you look at the concept and it's like, yeah, of course, there's going to be the space. It's going to be doable.
I think the truck was always that was going to.
Oh, I know it was going to be tight, but you look at how tight it is now versus what the concept was.
Before, the truck could back in either way. Now you're limiting how that truck can back up. That was, yes, it was.
Oh,
That
no,
was
I see
straight-
what he's saying is.
That was a
that
straight back
in
in.
shot,
You
yeah.
could have, you could
Yeah.
have gone either, you could have gone up the hill and back in, or you could have come down the hill and back in. Either way, now
Now
you've
you
limited.
have to go south to
Southbound.
north.
So on an icy day, he's gonna try to back up a hill, which is gonna be great.
And so you know what I
Your
mean?
crews
Like,
will get out there and salt that before they do the Mirror Street. I'm positive of that, Dave. I know how it works, but as long as you get Nebraska Street, we'll be okay.
Bob, were you looking up the CIP?
Yes.
Okay, so we currently have an available balance of $4,380,000.
How much?
$4,380,650.
Because that's their contract was encumbered already.
What's that?
Because their contract was already encumbered.
Yeah,
Yeah,
773
right.
was for their contract.
Right. And it was gold bonds under the CIP.
so what are you getting at? Or what do you mean?
That's our financial impact for this.
I didn't know it was settled, so tell me again, your impression was we were entering and exiting from Virginia Street versus Fifth Street?
Actually, I had the exit entrance on the cross
Yeah.
from the back of the hotel.
And it was, you go up, you kept going up, and then you came back down. That's what they show. That's why they're showing those two driveways.
That's what the concept is right there.
Well,
No, I know, I'm agreeing with you. That one.
Signage.
Yeah,
You
the,
just have to
the,
have
the
signage.
initial concept was the lower level had an entrance and an exit that was from behind the hotel, and the upper deck entered from Virginia. There was never a ramp in the structure. They called it a ramp, but it really was always a deck. 'Cause you'd lost.
right, but you didn't have to drive around and go all the way around a
Yeah,
hotel guest and go to Fifth Street.
No, there was never, yeah, you're right.
Never was that a
No,
plan.
Fifth Street was an option that came up very recently. But due to cost constraints is really where we started getting into the issues. Dealing with the excavation and dealing with the electric utility that runs along Fifth Street under the sidewalk.
And that's what's frustrating too, is we had to have known that was there, right? We didn't know that was there? The Mid-American conduit?
I didn't know, I didn't know it was there till we met with Mid-American a few weeks ago.
How could you not?
And
That building feeds their whole power plant.
No, I'm talking about the one that's in Fifth Street. There's the one that feeds the hospital runs in the alleyway.
No, it feeds that deal.
That's the one that's in the alleyway. There's a conduit that runs in Fifth Street that powers downtown.
Right
Oh,
there.
well, what difference does that make?
Well,
Because you can't lower it, that's the
yeah,
problem.
It's difficult to work around. But that's not the cost. The cost is the excavation and the shoring, regardless of
Yeah.
the power.
No,
power
I get that.
adds complications to it.
So how much more money if it's on the ground level?
Million?
Well, $1 million would be the two entrances off of Virginia.
What
Even
about?
more if we went back to the concept plan. I don't know if you've worked up an estimate of what the concept plan would be.
The
seems like
original,
it's
Yeah.
it would have been a couple of million over budget to
A
dig
couple
down
million, and
30
they only
feet.
budgeted 2.8. Oh, this is almost humorous if it wasn't such a bad deal.
That's why I'm here. That's why we make the big bucks.
I have to ask Nicole to show it to me. Well, what are we here for then? What are we here for?
To decide whether we want to go up off Fifth or both paying $1 million more and go off Virginia.
You can't pay $1 million
No,
more.
that's a no-brainer, then. We're stuck with 3.
Well, and I guess you save money without the ventilation and the sprinklers too. I understand having it more open air. It's just extraordinarily frustrating.
If you're right and I'm wrong on the parking, I always thought the upper deck was gonna be for public parking. And that-
So did I.
and the
No, it
hotel-
is. The upper deck is.
No, it
No,
isn't.
but if it gets filled,
Oh, yeah.
It's first priority to the hotel, then it'd be public parking.
but the hotels agreed to use the lower deck for their
It would be yep, it would always, the lower deck would always be for just hotel guests.
Right.
The upper deck, when the hotel's not using it, would be open for public parking. That's my understanding of the agreement, I guess Nicole would.
It's not specific related.
That there'd be, my understanding is that there's a first priority to the upper deck for the hotel.
Well, this is another reason why
Marty's
they want
awfully
it that way,
quiet
because
back
they can
there.
say, they can put a fob on that lower. They can put a fob on that lower entrance and make sure it's only for hotel guests. That'll never be open for the public. It'll always be a fob because they're gonna pay for those 70 stalls. And they'll make sure that they put a fob on that and you'll have to have a hotel key to get in.
Well,
was
we'll
not
we'll
what
have
we
to have
were-
some sort of thing on the upper deck, like we said, when you do have a situation when the hotel's completely full, that limits that to only hotel guests at that time also.
Well, what happens if a bunch of people go down there to go to the show and their hotel guests don't have a place, then what happens?
That's what I'm saying, there'd have to be some sort of system that's gonna say, okay, we've booked out 125 rooms, so there's 30 spots on the upper deck that need to be reserved for hotel
How
guests.
do you do that?
You just have to have.
When you enter it, if somebody takes the ticket, that counts as one of the extra.
Yeah, but what if it's full when that hotel guest checks in? Most time when I go out of town, I don't check in till midnight because I hate motel rooms. So then what am I gonna do? You know, what do you do?
You could,
then?
yeah, you could run into that
I
situation.
run into that in Cedar Rapids when I stay down that Doubletree. You could be parking a long ways away because I don't get there very early. So what's gonna happen then?
Well, we'd hope they'd save it on a reservation if you don't have, you'd be talking if you were a non-rich.
Right, but what guarantees me I'm going to have a parking stall? That's my point.
Yeah, there are other parking spots right there in walking distance, but I do get it too.
As long as they have a priority on the top floor, you're never going to get public parking in there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
We're building a ramp for these guys.
yeah.
By the way, it's not what you were told. I'm just gonna throw that out and let it go.
I know.
And we're losing,
Dave was correct. I just pulled up the parking agreement. It is the first floor level is allocated to the hotel.
well, I don't know how you can spend $1 million more, so.
That's the unfortunate.
And it's not like you can go back to Kinseth or someone else and say, look, this is the concept, this is what was told, now it's all switching. You know what I mean? I don't even think you can do that, right? You can't go back and
Can't we?
negotiate that.
They're the ones that gave you the estimate, though.
Can you? I don't know. Bob, thoughts?
I think we should be able to at least discuss it.
Yeah, I don't know why you couldn't discuss it. It's not what we were told.
By the way, in the CIP, those projects are broken out separately, just so you know.
Okay.
But I know that that won't matter, and I'll lose that argument, but anyway.
So yeah, I guess I'm asking because I don't know. Can we go back and negotiate with Kinseth and say, look, this concept that was given, it was pitched to us and why we voted on it was as documented on this, that's on the screen.
The agreement and the development agreement, the agreement for the parking structure, it indicates that there'll be 140 stall structure for the benefit of the hotel. That's how that's.
But they only have to pay
phrased.
for 70 of them.
There's, I just closed out of the parking
That's
agreement. I can bring that up and give you the percentages and the allocation of what they're paying per month, and maybe Bob knows off the top of his head. They can add additional parking spaces for events. If they have a special event where they need additional spaces, that's part of the agreement, that it's contemplated that they can reserve those.
Okay, so we have a total of 150 spots, right?
And 140 are required
They're
under
only
the
building
agreement.
this 140 because that's all you can afford.
No, he said 140 in the two
Down
parking
below.
decks, and then you add the handicap or accessible stuff down below, it'll be 150.
But that's on their site, so you're not getting, you have
Correct.
to build the 140 up above.
Correct.
Well, at this late hour, I'd like to wrap this up. I don't know
Yeah.
what else we're gonna do about it, so what?
I don't know what we can do either. There's nowhere to go.
Except negotiate.
Well, you've got a recommendation here is to do something.
Well, and I suppose what do? You just go forward and move on with this and then negotiate it as it goes, or you just say, no, we approved it, so now who cares? Right? That the hands are tied? Yeah, we gotta provide it.
That's a city attorney question, but I think you've got to provide it.
I think what you're looking at is they're providing, or we'll get to the point where there's an engineer's estimate that's provided for what the design will cost. I mean, the ultimate question or the ultimate answer comes when it's publicly bid and what your estimates come in as. But we'll have an engineer's estimate that needs to stay within the budget, but what the contract prices come in at, I mean, that's to be determined.
I think what they're asking is if we push back and said, no, we want the original concept that was put out for us, can are you gonna pay the difference?
No, they're not asking that. They're saying it looks like this whole thing's gonna be over budget, and what happens when that's what I'm understanding.
Right.
And what happens when that happens, because the city only committed 4.8 million, 4.1 for construction and 773 for fees. So what happens when this project gets bid and it comes in at 4.8 plus fees? What happens then? Because they presented the numbers for the budget, we didn't. So then what happens? You can't answer because you're not Kinseth, right?
We work for them on the hotel project, but we work for you on the convention and the parking.
But they gave us those numbers originally. Where'd we get those numbers originally?
Marty, can you address that, the cost estimates, how we came up with the various cost estimates?
No, now we understand Marty had something to do with it. That explains a lot now. It's all coming to me quickly now.
I think the original estimate, as Dan explained, the original estimates came from Dicon, I think, from the.
Well, those were the ones last winter. I don't know what where the earlier numbers came from, or the original.
The question is, where did the cost of the parking ramp come from?
It didn't come from us, is my point. It came from Kinseth's group.
Yes.
Thank you.
And so now if we can't come anywhere close to that and are gonna have to pay millions of dollars more to get it the way that it was spec'd, who is that on?
Read your development agreement, it's on you.
I'm not sure I can answer that. I think.
City's commitment
We have to follow the development agreement.
140
The
stall
city's
parking
commitment was that with no dollar amount tied to it, so the answer is they can design a Taj Mahal, we're paying for it.
Unless there's an additional amendment that can be done to the development agreement. If there's a different design or a different concept, the parties can agree to amend and go back, which we've done in other situations.
So do we vote today and then carry?
Well, I would suggest you bid those alternate rooms as those alternate storage rooms as alternates. You may not get that. They may not get that as a final product.
There are ways we can look at the budget in alternates or whatever form.
Actually, I think the
16-foot.
The storage areas were added after comments from city staff that thought it would be good to have more storage areas. I don't think that came from Kinseth.
What's that?
You talk about the storage areas, Mayor? That was added after some comments from the city staff when they started
Marty, I
talking
don't care.
to
We're
them.
not gonna spend more than, I hope we're not
I
gonna
understand.
spend more than $4.8 million. I don't care what they build, but this council committed $4.8 million to that project. 4 of them did, and I'm gonna support that now. It's a project, but I don't think we should commit to, these guys need to do what they can to keep that in that budget. And I would hope the rest of council would agree with that. I think I'm sensing that you
Yes,
are, so.
absolutely.
So that's the direction. Design that parking ramp for me however you want to, but there better be a $4.8 million bid or $4.1 million bid when we're done.
The
for
CIP
everything.
says 4.3.
Well, it's 773 in design on a 4 point, you
Yeah,
got the
whatever
sheet,
it's
so it's whatever it is.
Yeah.
And if there's anything else that needs to be bid, then it's gonna have to be negotiated with Kinseth. There's some of that stuff's gonna have to be cut out.
Are you saying that they have to do the original concept and be under the 4 point?
No, they're saying, present a $4.1 million project.
That's a 4.8. Including their.
Yeah, it is. It includes AE fees, yeah.
Well, good, then let's get the bids and see. I know that, I said earlier, I know you guys never believe that, but your estimates don't really mean anything. When 3 contractors bid and give us a number, that's what really counts as a bid,
You're
as what it
absolutely right.
costs.
Yeah. And as Jonathan mentioned, we can build alternates in to get the bids there. I actually plan on, there's a couple things I want to scale down a little bit on the convention center that I don't think will hurt the design, but will cut the costs a little bit more. Some of the walls don't have to be as tall as we have them. And I'm gonna make some of those changes so that we're going in, feeling pretty good about the numbers. But then we will have some alternates, like that storage area that Marty mentioned was not part of the original agreements you had with Kinseth or part of the original design. It was something that talking with Erica and staff, they needed some storage space, and they have those couple of big trailers outside now filled.
Well, it's not gonna make any difference to us. The Kinseth is gonna run it from here on out, so.
We might as well stay on budget and say you find storage. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you want to have the total package, though, of what we're doing?
No, I agree, Dan. I mean, I get that. I'm just
You
saying.
gotta start with the parking lot is what they're saying.
We have to pay for that.
Because it changes everything. If you insist upon that being that original design, it changes everything else they're doing. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, I follow you, yeah, just not happy about it. I mean, it's not what we were told at all.
I'll move 22.
Second.
What'd you say? Oh, for the 30 moved it.
He moved it.
I know there are 2 options, but the agenda says there are 3 options.
The first option was the original concept,
which
they
is
didn't
not
go
an
over
option.
because
The
it's
one
just
I
not.
liked.
Yeah.
The one everyone
I
liked,
voted
the one everyone voted for. Well, 4 people.
Not everyone.
4 people voted for it.
The feasibility was just.
So,
I want to build hopes and dreams too, but
So you moved option 2.
Well, yeah.
No?
Yeah.
You
gotta go Fifth Street option.
Did the Fifth Street option.
Call it the Fifth
Okay,
Street
Fifth
option.
Street option.
I'm sorry, because I wrote the RCA before I got their exhibits.
I'm
so
going
I
for the
didn't-
Fifth Street entrance
Because
that'll
there is
convince
no
you
other
to do a
choice and
two-way
stay within
street up
budget,
there
is there?
exactly.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking, actually. I'm just trying to figure a way to get you to go to the theaters.
oh, God.
Good luck.
What?
To do what?
To go to the theater.
Which theater are you
You
going
won't
to?
park it. You won't come in off Fifth Street like I will, and then slide down the hill.
For clarification, the motion is being.
That's the open air option that leaves the parking ramp on the lower level the way it is currently configured, except for the entrance.
Every Monday I take a couple of my grandsons to dinner, and that's gonna be past their bedtime now.
Well, it looks like
You're all
breakfast.
happy.
Usually on Monday I go for a drink after this. I might have a couple.
I've been sitting back there listening.
stairs.
Sorry, this is the
Some
first time.
input from you.
Reagan Cody with Downtown Partners. Sorry to interrupt and make your evening longer. I feel like if I didn't say something, it might come back to me at some point. So at this point, I'm just wondering if for that upper deck with the Fifth Street entrance, if it's possible to have it on Virginia Street for the upper deck, keeping the same design, but having that entrance, because I do worry about theater and historic 4th Street entertainment not being able, the public to see, which is technically the public deck, be able to see the entrance or exit and try and get to 5th Street to access. That's gonna be a visual
I asked that same question. The
interest.
answer was
Okay.
no.
No.
I didn't know. That was my question.
And I think, Reagan, to your point, because I was asking that, and that's why Dave and I went out and drove around, because I had to visualize it and think about it.
Yeah.
I think it's still such a terrible option, but whatever. We have to just signage, and wayfinding is going to be even more important. I think that, especially with the natural outlet coming out right there on Virginia. You go to 3rd, and you're just gonna say all kinds of public parking, take a left. Take a left on 3rd, and then you're gonna literally drive right by on Jones, drive by 2 parking structures, or you go right up and around and you're on the top level of the deck. I mean,
I agree.
that's
Or
gonna
I
have
would
to be
agree with Bob that a two-way street would be
Two-way
ideal
street's
for
the
this
best option,
situation.
but I've been fighting that hill.
Why don't-
I've
let's
been
just-
climbing that hill all by myself for a long time.
Let's just put that on the
Can
agenda.
we do that at
Let's do it in
7:30
2
at night?
weeks.
Yeah.
Let's put it on there.
Thank you, I just had to ask.
Thanks, Reagan.
Thank you, Reagan.
Okay.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin,
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Any citizen concerns?
Yeah, please.
God, no.
And as late as the hour is, Pete, take as long as you want. It doesn't matter.
You got 60 seconds. That's
Say what
it.
you want, and Alex, you go right ahead.
I
If you
don't- yeah.
got 13 or 14 things, I'm good with it.
I don't think I have anything. Thank you, though.
What? Well, I have plenty of things, but I'm gonna make it one.
Go ahead.
We have an airport meeting on Wednesday. That's all.
And where is that?
That would be at the airport.
No.
No.
No, it's at
Yeah.
your museum.
I thought
they
switched
changed
They
it.
changed-
She sent out an email and said she was sorry she was mistaken.
So where is it? At the
Mistaken
museum?
that it was at the
Museum.
airport?
It's at the Air
It is
Museum.
at the Air Museum.
Yes.
It's at the Air
Did you
Museum.
get the memo?
Yes.
At the Air Museum?
The Air Museum.
They got the memo.
Okay.
I thought
I'm
that's
done.
what she
That's
changed.
it?
I'm done.
Alex, what do you have for the good of the order?
Yeah. Well, I always like to use this opportunity to talk about different cool things coming up and not gripe too much. Although I want to gripe about Glenn every single time I see you, Dave. I
You'll
still
be getting
get,
a phone call, because I have to call a guy. I got a message here tonight, so. What's that?
We sent a letter to all the residents. We're gonna look, we met.
oh,
with-
sidewalk.
Yeah, I assume that's what you sent when you. said
I
that.
was meaning everything, but yeah, sidewalks are a big part too.
So we met with DOT. It's the way they would have done it, but it's not gonna work out for us, and we gotta find a different solution. So we told the neighbors we're gonna be looking into what we can do to change those 5 or 6 spots that we've got an issue with.
Yeah.
Working on it.
If that's what the DOC said they would have done, we should question their wisdom too, but.
The only other things that I would say coming up to definitely watch out for, Artalicious at the Art Center is a really great time with Hy-Vee offering a lot of food and beverage options and fundraiser. Anyway, that's Friday night. And then there's also a student directed and produced art play at Morningside College, if you're interested, runs Thursday through Sunday.
I have tickets if anybody wants to go.
Good man. Wait, to Artalicious or the play?
Wait, I got the tickets to everything at Morningside because
Yeah,
I give them money. You didn't
Good
believe
man.
that, did you?
I would not, if you would, I would not believe that.
I
let's
got
be
them in my
honest.
desk drawer anytime you need extra.
I will go. On Saturday is the re-event. And so if you're looking for an opportunity to recycle down there, long lines.
What
then-
can we take there? Printers and everything?
Yes,
TVs?
that's my understanding. Printers,
For a fee.
TVs, batteries,
I know it's a
light
fee, but
bulbs,
we can take it all at one place.
Electronics,
electronics, yeah.
fluorescent light bulbs,
Oh, you just throw them away, you know.
most TVs, batteries.
Actually down at Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, benefiting Habitat for Humanity. So go down there. That'd be great to show support. There's also a zombie walk and a blood crawl. I don't make this stuff up. That's for the Disability Resource Center of Siouxland. And then that's it as far as events. Then I would just really encourage and hope everyone gets out there and votes tomorrow, understands that it's the election for the primary, and not at the courthouse. Go to one of the 13 locations where you can vote tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Because I can only speak for myself. I'm pretty excited to be up here on nights like tonight. I tell you, go ahead and get out there and vote.
I thought all the precincts were open.
Yeah, all 13.
But you can vote in any precinct? There's 19 at least.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, I think there's only a list
We
of
did,
13.
we passed
but
that a
perhaps you
couple,
can
3
Google
years
it.
ago.
That's not our call, but that's Pat Gill's. We have no control over that.
Yeah, but he asked us about it. I mean, didn't he
Right,
tell
but
us?
every election's different is what I'm saying.
Okay.
I think he said all of them were open this time.
But do we have to go to our home precinct?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
What is it?
Driver's website said 13.
Yeah, only 13 open. I was pretty sure I was right.
Thank you, Woody.
You can find the list at kscj.com.
Was that kscj.com? Is that what that was, Woody?
That guy.
kscj.com?
Wow.
You come up to the podium and give us your name and.
That was a paid political. Go ahead. No, I got one thing.
Okay, I'm finished.
I've read this
Thank
in the
you.
journal a while back. See, I think it was a 25-year ago. And I bought bricks for all my kids and for my grandma. And I think even for my wedding anniversary. And I spent $30 a brick, and it was a deal that was built over on 4th Street that was never, ever going to be torn down. And if it was, there was always going to be a place where it would be rebuilt. I think we owe the public the opportunity to get the bricks back, or we need to find a project to build that again. Because that was a promise that was made when we did that.
That's been discussed. The problem is the way the bricks were stored, they'd be almost impossible to find your bricks.
We have a list of the donors, so wouldn't it?
Oh, here comes
Where
Reagan.
is this, or what?
Reagan's got some news for us.
I'm so glad I didn't leave.
Well, it's disappointing when
I
the city
agree.
makes a promise to their
Nope.
citizens and they don't honor it.
I agree completely, and we get calls every year. I would be happy to help in some way to organize and lay the bricks out. We've talked about this before, if they weren't going to be used, to get them laid out in the Tyson Center or somewhere that has the land mass to do so and give everybody the opportunity. We do have the listing. I'm sure they would be easy to categorize. Not easy, this is not gonna be an easy project by any means, but perhaps next summer we could do something to that effect and get
Why don't
that.
we use those bricks for, we've been talking about signs
I've thought about
forever.
this.
Why don't we use the
Riverfronts
bricks for a
and-
sign for Sioux City? Welcome Sioux City, when have the bricks have people's names on them. What do you think of that?
I don't care, but I either want my bricks back, and I think other people would want their brick back. I
agree.
I think you get calls on that.
I do.
Or I
do.
think we need to do a project and use them. It's not right when we do that sort of thing and then we don't. And we said when we tore it down, we're gonna find a place for that, which has been some.
How many are there,
And
Bob?
since I've started, 7
Lots of
years ago,
bricks. There are lots of bricks.
there should be
I had an
something.
inquiry at the football game the other night too about them.
Where were these bricks? I've never even heard of this.
They're stored on pallets.
They
They
on
have,
4th Street between Nebraska and Jones. Used to
When
be
it
a
didn't-
plaza. It
yeah,
wasn't
when
a
it didn't
through
go
street.
it was a
the
plaza.
street
The
when there
big
wasn't a
planters
street.
were probably 6 foot high.
Mm-hmm.
They were pretty high, and all of them had names or whatever someone chose to
So
put
they're
on
not
them.
good
Let's
shape,
do
you
the
don't think,
riverfront.
or
Talk to
they're-
Talk to
they're
Matt,
still
and let's do
usable?
something on the
Yeah,
riverfront.
if there's some way they can be used,
I
that
think
would be
they took
great,
them
but I
apart
don't
one
like
brick at a
saying that if
time, I
it's not
think,
going to
didn't
be, so.
Well,
I
just
think-
print
I
them
think
on
they,
the
when they
next
took it apart,
bricks.
because they said they were gonna do another project, they took them apart one brick at a time,
Mm-hmm.
and they stored them on pallets.
Yeah,
And there's a
I would
lot
like
of
to do one or the other. Either we give them back or we
Where
need
they
to
stored
use
at?
them. It's been
At
a
the
long
museum?
time.
I think they're stored down to state seal, if I'm not mistaken.
An undisclosed location is what I usually say because I haven't personally seen them, and I'm not going to take the responsibility of saying that one. So,
So they are in pretty good condition?
from what I
They've
understand,
been stored, so bricks
they've been
shouldn't-
stored. I don't think they've been moved since they've been there.
Can you talk to Matt, see if there's an opportunity for that? Sure. Thanks, Reagan. Unless Dave wants another project. Okay.
Yes. Tonight, the volunteer
Yes.
appreciation
Oh, yeah,
dinner.
thank you.
That's right.
How did you miss that?
I was looking towards the weekend. I skipped right over tomorrow.
We'll expect everyone to be there that is on one of our boards or commissions, and we appreciate those. If they can't come, we
Service.
still appreciate their service,
We're
so.
going to honor them and.
Most
We'll honor them, and I move we adjourn.
Second, third.
No, I can.
Aye.
What I would order if I went out.
Yep.
We have no money.
Aye.
Aye.
My God.